Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. Welcome to Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. This is episode 22. I am your host, Mr. Matty Plays. You can just call me Matty. This is a very special episode. We're going to be talking all about E3. Carrick, how are you doing, my friend? Are you excited?
Yeah, pretty excited. Pretty excited. It was a better event than we've had in the past, so there's some stuff to talk about, which is nice. There's no reindeer moments. And I'm Carrick with ACG. Happy to be here. Oh, yeah. Happy to have made it.
Yeah, right. I probably should have let you introduce yourself first before.
Well, you introduced me. That's fine. At least I get one call out.
Yeah, right.
we're good.
Technically two now.
We're good. Yeah. Yeah. So it was nice to see some cool stuff be announced. For sure. I think a lot of it had been leaked, which sort of sucked, but that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the whole thing leaked. Because when I first saw that, I went, oh, that's not their whole showcase. And it turned out most of it was. And when you saw the games, it definitely changed how you felt initially. But I'm excited to do a deep dive on everything. So for those who want to know how this show is going to roll, it is our standard episode of Defining Duke, where we're going to go through literally everything as you'd expect. But we're not doing like viewer submissions and stuff because we're also doing a standard episode on Wednesday on top of that, where we will do our normal structure. This is more along the lines of just going into similar how we did with our pre-E3 episode where we hit, every studio. We're hitting every announcement that occurred during Xbox's showcase. I just also want to let everyone know Defining Duke Ultimate 20 is going to be a Halo Infinite deep dive with Chris Ragon, my incidental neighbor. So we can look forward to that. It's going to be a really good time just going into everything between the multiplayer and cinematic. Yeah, we live really close. So
no,
I'm sure I'll be.
That's awesome.
Well, the thing is, quick story on Chris, is I remember seeing him online, and I was like, I think I've seen this guy before. And I asked my brother, I was like, do you know this guy? Because he's more around Chris's age, and he's like, he does look familiar. So it makes sense. I've definitely crossed Chris's path. Chris's path at some point in my lifetime.
Oh,
I
very
don't know
cool.
when.
That's very cool.
But yeah, we're going to be doing a Halo Infinite deep dive on the campaign, the multiplayer mostly. That's Chris's forte, so he will be really guiding that conversation. I'll just be setting up the topics and adding my 2 cents to the bunch as someone who was a longtime Halo fan, but obviously do not have as deep of a knowledge and appreciation as Chris does. So look forward to that. We'll still be talking about Halo here. But for now, general impressions. Carrick, what did you think of the showcase overall? Good, bad, all right, amazing even?
Yeah, I mean, it was, if you remove your dislikes for some games because you're not into those games, it was probably their best that they've ever done. I mean, if you get stuck on, they showed me this certain part that I don't like, it's like, well, that's a weird way to go into an event that's going to show you games from all over, various different genres. So there were some genres I was like, but overall, there was a lot of cool stuff. It was unfortunate because it was just a lot of it was leaked, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I mean, it was about what I expected, or what I guess I would say I'd hoped, because you always hope and then they turn out to be crap. And this one didn't let me down, which I guess is a really good thing.
Yeah, they cast a really wide net. It was one of the first things I said was that I think some people's disappointment, I don't want to trivialize it, but it may be a little bit more misplaced, just because of the fact that you have you have so many different genres being put into this show: RTS, RPGs, shooters, side scrollers, strategy. I mean, there's just everything was there. That it's very easy to feel underwhelmed when you're seeing it all come to Game Pass. It's a pretty good package deal that they gave us here. And so we're gonna dive straight into that. Let's get rocking and rolling early in this show. Starfield. I thought this was surprising because it wasn't Phil Spencer who led the show, but it was a member of Bethesda. It was Todd Howard who opened things up. I felt that was more of a strategic choice to sort of set a precedent. Like, it's not just about Xbox, but also about Bethesda. Were you as taken aback as I was by this? Because I was very vocally surprised, rather, when I saw Todd Howard there. I was like, wait, they're opening it with him? Did you feel the same?
No, but I thought it was you I talked to, so I apologize, because in another podcast I said it was you. So it must have been just the tip guys on my channel. But I had stated that was my belief, was that they would either come out together or they would have Bethesda come out, because it was once we found out it was a Bethesda Microsoft showcase. I was like, what are you going to do? Because it's Todd Howard. Pete Hines surprised me, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Now that I think about it. Maybe not, because I guess I just assumed Pete's very high, but Todd's the high. So I guess I just assumed, because I think Pete opened it, right? Wasn't Pete the one who opened it and then it went to Todd? Isn't that how it went?
Todd opened it and it went to Pete.
Todd opened it and it went to Pete, yeah. So I guess I just expected Todd by himself. But no, that was actually pretty much exactly, again, weirdly enough, sort of what I hoped for, but didn't think, my big hope for all the teams coming together and saying we're the new Fallout team didn't happen. But, I mean, that was like a dream. But a lot of the stuff that they did made smart business sense that no company prior has probably ever done. And so that was surprising. They are I mean, they're very in tune to say we're not going to... I did hear through the grapevine that there was a dissatisfaction that there wasn't 2 events between Bethesda and Microsoft, and that was a late rumor, and I didn't really put any stock into it. But then when you do see Bethesda announce it, you're like, oh, maybe that was a way to placate them. But I will say this, if there were 2 events, I would have been utterly unhappy, because Bethesda didn't look like they were ready to show enough, and Microsoft didn't probably have enough. So merging these was, that again, surprisingly enough, exactly what I'd hoped and never thought would happen. I don't think anybody's opened for a major platform ever if it wasn't the major platform, unless I'm mistaken.
No, it was well done. I thought the showcase was solid. For me, what I felt was missing personally was the knockout punch that I was kind of hoping for, and we'll obviously expand on those thoughts a little bit more as we get into particular games. But I felt like there was a lot of awesome stuff here, just nothing that quite swept me off my feet, got me out of my chair, and was like, oh my God, man, like this is what they got. But there is a lot of great stuff here. It's a good roadmap for Xbox looking forward. So my impressions of it was a good showcase for sure. And I think this is why Bethesda joining Xbox is such a good thing, because if you look at the Bethesda beats throughout this show, if they hosted their own showcase, my Lord, it would have been another train wreck. It absolutely would have been. There wasn't enough there. Even with Starfield as kind of this exciting new thing, there just wasn't enough there for Bethesda. But since they're a part of like 25 other games being shown there, it lifted up the showcase even more. So I think overall this is good for the future, because it does not stretch Bethesda and their announcements thin, and they can really take their time and show stuff off when they feel like they need to, rather than we have to do another showcase. With Starfield, however, let's get into our first game. It's coming November 11th, 2022. Todd Howard said in a separate interview he's confident it's going to hit that date, which my response was, well, Bethesda Game Studios has really shown a history of ready or not, here we come. They're going to release it one way or another. It's an Xbox Series X and S exclusive, so next-gen consoles only. It's running on Creation Engine 2, a brand new engine created to power next-gen technology. And you were a part of Constellation, the last group of space explorers. We got a in-game footage teaser trailer alongside a making of Starfield trailer. There was new concept art separately released. Like I said, a couple of interviews were there where we're starting to get an idea of what this game is. Now, of course, I'm a big Bethesda Game Studios fan, so I'll save my thoughts from polluting the podcast for a little bit and pass it off to you. What did you make of what you saw of Starfield? Did you feel it was enough? Was it too early, especially with how long we have to wait for this game? Was it the right opener? Let's hear what you got to say about this one.
Yeah, it was probably not enough, but I didn't know it was going to be 2022 or whatever the fuck date is at the very end of next year. I actually thought it was going to be like middle or something. So, sorry, my PC's installing shit, and I didn't realize I was going to do this, so hopefully everything goes fine. I just want to
fingers crossed.
As you're talking, occasionally I'm seeing like DOS boxes open up. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about Starfield. I'm done overall with caring about that until we see it, which we didn't. So if we had seen it, I will say I do believe that this does show all the leaks were true. The patch, all that. So all that was true. Where I think now that we're outside of E3, it does point out that most leakers are absolutely just wrong on 99% of what they say. And so it was interesting to see that those leaks in particular were right, where so many others, even outside of Starfield and the date or anything, but just all this stuff didn't show up. Microsoft did other things. Now that could be them bouncing around and saying, "Oh, let's leak something and see what people say. Maybe we'll go this way with the event." That could happen too. But I didn't really see anything to talk about other than saying that the leaks, whoever leaked those pics, that was right. Obviously, I mean
you could see the same space.
The patch, it was all, which is great. In fact, I didn't get really anything from that. I did get something from Todd Howard's interview where he said it's basically Skyrim in space. And once he said that, I checked out in a good way. I don't care now. I probably won't follow the game very much. I love that idea. That's what I was hoping for. He could have said Fallout, and I would have been just as happy. But he said, somewhat like Skyrim in space, you're part of this and that. And once he said that, I was like, okay, we actually have enough. Like, I have enough now to know the overall ideal of what they're shooting for. And I'm totally happy with letting them. If they want to take 5 years, I'm just not like everybody else. When it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, I'm not going to suddenly lose a birthday over it. So I'm excited to see it when they show gameplay. That's what I want, is some gameplay at some point.
Yeah. So obviously I'm someone who really likes their games a lot, and I had, I would say, more of an excited reaction. I even teared up during the trailer because I know these games are like, it's a big reason why I'm here. Like, it's just a very big reason why I even got to this point was through their games. So to see them kind of take on a new universe, it welled me up with emotions. Like, I didn't really expect that. I don't get emotional really ever, especially when I'm like live on stream. Definitely not. And so something kind of took me over. I was like, wow, this is actually like a really cool moment. I was at first, like, I never expected gameplay. I was hoping for it, but like I never expected it. And I was, I didn't want to like spoil it or really, I don't want to say spoil it, but I didn't want to like be a buzzkill with last minute info that could have ended up being wrong. But I was told ahead of the showcase by people who I would imagine would be in the know that, yeah, it's not going to be gameplay. It's going to be more of an in-engine trailer. And that's all they could tell me. And I was like, all right, well, we'll see how it plays out. And it was exactly what I thought it would be. For me, after Cyberpunk and how that game was marketed, where we saw a lot of gameplay, but it was ahead of launch, I feel like it was the good call if you're going to reveal it now to show that type of trailer. My biggest problem with their showcase was that there was so much more there with the concept art to really, because if you look at the trailer alone, it really looks like a by the numbers space game. It's like, okay, you get in your ship and you take off. We see this type of moon rock planet. Nice. That's right. Yeah, it's space game. And then you see some of the concept art, and it is just concept art, so let's not get carried away. But you look at some of that, and I'm like, wow, some of these planets look awesome in their idea. And when you're hearing it's Skyrim in space, I mean, those types of lines, that's the stuff that would have got, I think, people to buy in. So the initial response to Starfield I saw online was really sour at first. And as the information started to circulate, and as people started to get the interview clips there, like Todd Howard saying, we're going back to our roots, we're doing a more hardcore RPG this time around compared to our previous stuff. Like, as a longtime fan, I cannot emphasize how much music that is to my ears. Like, I have been dying to hear that for years from Bethesda Game Studios, probably since Far Harbor, where they kind of did a gloves off moment. And they went, all right, let's show them we can still make an RPG. I've been dying for that moment. So I don't want to say I'm excited. Like, I'm very strongly interested, though, because like I took the deep dive in the trailer. For those who are curious, I'll have a full trailer analysis on my channel, but I just want to offer this here is that there were a couple of books on the shelves in the trailer that Todd Howard said were deliberately placed there. He said they have relevance. One was called Sailing Alone Around the World, which was about Joshua Slocum, who was this sailor who kind of challenged this I think it was like an expert, like a scientist, that you cannot sail around the world. And so he goes out and does this, and then he eventually disappears. And then the other book was Omega, which is a story about a science fiction universe, and I think it was the 25th century, about a comet hitting Earth or heading towards Earth and will end things, and sort of the repercussions of that impending moment. And so he once again says it's relevant. And when he described Constellation, this group you're a part of, as the last group of space explorers, I'm like, okay, to me, this sounds like humanity's taking their last step forward, and things on Earth are likely screwed. So while the trailer didn't offer much visually, it did offer a lot of context on a narrative and thematic level that you don't really see from Bethesda Game Studios. And I think because this is the benefit of it being a new thing, they don't just keep beating away at the Fallout lore Bible and stuff like that. It's new, so they have to dig a little bit deeper. And it reminded me of how I felt about BioShock with, like, you could see the inspiration from Ayn Rand's work. And it's like, okay, you know, that's what I like when you can see a direct source of where this game's coming from. So for me, I feel like it's hitting all the beats. It reminds me a lot of Oblivion, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, where it's like we're going next gen, we're committing to that, we're doing a new engine, or rather upgrading our tech, I should say, when it comes to Oblivion, and going to more hardcore RPG roots. Like that's good news to me. Obviously, I'm right there in the same boat with you. I don't want a full send until we're there with some gameplay, which Todd Howard has already said will be closer to launch, as I'm sure most of us expect. It likely won't be till next year, but we have no idea on that. That was their show opener. Anything else you want to add on, or should we move to the next one?
There was something. Shoot, there was something when you were talking about You said that it was announced as an exclusive for a series, but also Microsoft
PC.
went out of their way to say exclusive for consoles for multiple games. You know, or Microsoft
console launch
stuff.
Exclusive or whatever they said. They had like the blurb.
PC. By the way, anybody listening, PC is Microsoft. So if I say exclusive, I mean PC and console.
Yeah.
You know, the price delta is huge between the two. So they're different consumers usually. But I thought it was nice because back when I was originally saying it was for sure exclusive, which was pretty much like the day that the deal got announced, I was told by somebody that I trust that it was like, there was just no chance that was coming to the consoles. And I know that over time it sort of adjusted, but it was like, that was one of the first times where I just saw people really being dumb, like just not understanding how exclusives work or how things would work in the business in certain places. And so to see that it was sort of nice for me, because it was just like, all right, now we can move on from that discussion, like rip the scab off and let's talk about other stuff, because that was eating up I was still seeing articles, I was still seeing people being like, here's the reason why these are for sure not exclusive, and here's my 10 reasons why you're wrong or whatever. And you're just sitting there going like, dude, you sound like an idiot. Like, so I sort of dig that we're past that.
I agree entirely. And that's one thing this showcase did successfully, is between this game and Redfall, really said like, hey, Bethesda games will be exclusive. The only thing we have yet to really see that I think there is some level of room for conversation on is, let's say, Wolfenstein 3. I think that'll be the next one. When that comes around, will that be exclusive? I anticipate it will be. I feel like they've set a strong enough precedent with their games, but as an existing series, we'll have to see on that one. I think it will be, but time will tell. For now, let's move into S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, the next game at the showcase. This is coming out April 28th, 2022. Day one Game Pass. It's a Series X and S console exclusive as well. The gameplay shows off the Zone, which is an area surrounding Ukraine's Chernobyl nuclear power plant, and it follows the alternate history of a 1986 disaster in this kind of open world area. You can see the main characters throwing these kind of like capsules to detect these invisible explosive bombs almost. It's a very weird looking game. I've had my audience suggest it to me for a while. I thought this looked very interesting, a pretty good I shouldn't say post-apocalyptic. It's been described to me as more dystopian, but a really interesting looking game. And I think a good get for Xbox is right now the Fallout license is sort of sitting in an awkward area where you see them committing more and more to 76, and we don't know if, with all those minds at Bethesda and Obsidian and Exile, if they're going to do more with Fallout, where that will end up. So having something like S.T.A.L.K.E.R, I think, is a really good get for them. Were you excited by anything you saw with this one?
Well, yeah, because I mean, like, I actually like S.T.A.L.K.E.R probably more than most Bethesda games. So, but S.T.A.L.K.E.R was post-apocalyptic, like Oblivion, It was sort of where you could interact with almost everything. It was janky. It was like you didn't know if it'd crash or if it'd run, but if it ran, there were crazy things that would happen because there was a lot of Eurojank, very Eurojank, and
right,
and hard. You would die sometimes and be like, "Why did I die? I don't quite get what exactly happened. And what's this anomaly and what's this?" And I think the graphical presentation has stepped up to the point to where those kind of questions won't pop up. But it was bad enough. The bugs were bad enough so that people understand. I went on the Lord's podcast directly after this, and they were talking about it. And the issues were so bad with Stalker 1 that when Stalker 2, one of the characters teleports, and a guy who played Stalker 1 thought it was a bug. He saw it in the trailer and was like, "Oh, that's just a bug." And they're like, "No, dude, that's the special effect for the dude teleporting." And they're like, "Oh," because they were so accustomed to Stalker being that janky. So
wow.
that and the anomaly effect with the mirroring and all that stuff, it looks graphically, it looks really good. And as somebody said, they thought a lot of it was CG, and then you started watching and you're like, oh shit. The people around the campfire didn't look the greatest, but the actual combat and locations, that's exactly why I liked most of Metro Exodus and why I've liked Metro as a whole and why I've liked Stalker. So to me, Stalker 2 is probably the biggest, one of the biggest gets. Atomic Heart was shown as well. I think that's a console release exclusive, but you probably have the data. I don't. They did show it. We can talk about that. But yeah, Microsoft sort of knew that the post-apocalyptic scene needed to be picked up, so they took at least 2 games from that, as well as multiple Cyberpunk games. So
yeah,
they definitely knew what they were doing with like what genres to grab. But yeah, super excited. Stalker 2's right up my alley.
Yeah, I agree. I love seeing the real-time weapon customization. I thought that looked excellent. Was it always that action-packed, for lack of better terms? I found myself
at points that it was action-packed. Yeah, I don't know if that trailer was probably cut. The moment something slowed down, I saw people, even in my chat, which, by the way, you said something about, you saw some negativity about Starfield. I didn't see any. Oh, the only negativity I saw was, oh, shit, we didn't see gameplay. There was no negativity. So, oh, okay. All right. I just want to make sure because I was like, I don't even understand how somebody could be negative about it. But with this, I believe that they cut it to be action-packed, and that's fine. They were hitting on, they were like, you know, we're at the Call of Duty time frame right now. You also showed Battlefield at the starting, which, by the way, to me at least, that looked beyond belief, at least in particle effects and some other stuff.
I can't wait to talk about that with you.
That was one of the so I feel that they probably had to cut that in a way to make you go like, this is. But I bet you that will be, Stalker is known as the slower Metro. That is literally what it's known as. I don't see anything in that made me feel it wasn't going to be, but I did see a trailer cut to our demographic, the current watcher of E3.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, definitely got some Metro vibes. And what's good about this is where Metro, when it started to go more and more open, for me personally, I was like, all right, you know, that's, I don't like that Metro went open because I had like a kind of established love for its more confined spaces, its linearity, if you will. Whereas with something like Stalker, I don't have really anything established with that. So ultimately, very open to where this is heading.
Well, it's a sequel anyway. I mean, that technically the Metro games are really just what Stalker was going to be, and there was IP issues. I don't even remember what it was, and so that's how Metro got made. So, to me, this is returning to form in a way.
Right. Next up is Contraband. So this was a brand new IP announced at the showcase. It has no release date as of this point in time. I did see reports suggesting 2023. It's a day one Game Pass get for Xbox. It'll be a Series X and S console exclusive. It says in the trailer it's open world and co-op. We can see a table laid out of some type of heist. Now, Windows Central Gaming actually reported some details that I can personally corroborate. I've heard this about the game, but I didn't want to break the details myself before the announcement of it. But just know this is, I would say, trustworthy info. Contraband takes familiar elements from the likes of Sea of Thieves and mixes it with some Avalanche sandbox explosiveness. Gadgets, guns, vehicles, both on and off land, are crucial to a successful smuggling run and players will be able to build up teams with other players in online social hubs. Contraband is described as a, quote, vehicle first, end quote, in previous information I received, which describes your vehicle as being akin to Tony Stark's Iron Man suit. Your vehicle is your most important tool, both offensively and defensively, packing a wealth of utility as you plan and execute smuggling runs. As a service game, Contraband will evolve with new features and challenges to keep the gameplay loop fresh over time. So this is where you can kind of gauge your expectations. I'm not surprised that Microsoft is going to take another crack in that Sea of Thieves vein after how successful that has been. We'll talk about Sea of Thieves, funny enough, after this. But as for Contraband, Avalanche and Xbox Game Studios teaming up for a pretty interesting exclusive here. This is one of those moments where, of course, they couldn't show more because of how far out it is. But I felt like this was that moment where like a new IP is a haymaker moment. And so it didn't underwhelm, especially because I already knew about this game, so it was sort of expected from my standpoint. So maybe that sort of softened the blow that others were experiencing. But what did you think about Contraband? I don't know how much in the know you were about this one, but were you excited by the premise at least?
Yeah, the premise, I've been informed that it was that like people should be expecting like garages and all kinds of crazy stuff with bases that haven't been done before in games, which I think would probably be true if you do look at Sea of Thieves and you look at a car-based game. It makes sense. There's something to do with bases, and garages might be something very cool with them. There's been a couple of other things that I've been informed when it comes to the vehicle first thing, which sort of surprised me, including some like major bad guys, boss kind of stuff that may occur. PvPvE. So yeah, PvP, player versus environment, all at the same time. So we'll see if that, you know, how that all comes across. But I mean, it's Avalanche, so I guess I'm excited for it. I didn't have any negativity that they didn't show gameplay. They didn't really show anything, I guess.
Yeah.
So I can certainly see
what it is.
Yeah, and I did see some people talking about this games as a service games, all that kind of stuff being mentioned. And yeah, probably not smart, you know, for them to talk about that stuff so early, because we didn't see anything to make. You usually have to talk yourself over a games as a service game, as in you look at it and it has to be good enough for you to say, okay, I'll possibly get into that. I think games as a service is in such a dire straits right now because the multiple titles they've tried. Anthem, Fallout 76 is an MMO, but it's also, you know, most MMOs are games as a service at some point. But a lot of these games have failed utterly. Avengers, so I probably wouldn't have done it. I just wanted to throw a different background up there. Personally, I wouldn't have shown nothing. That would have been my choice. I would have either shown nothing or shown a little bit of something so that people can get some excitement, because right now it's just you and I just talking about what we've heard versus seeing anything.
Exactly, right. And what kind of conversation is that? You know, the way it was described to me before launch, before announcement was a GTA Sea of Thieves kind of hybrid. And so that would make a lot of sense with what Jez from Windows Central Gaming is reporting. Otherwise, excited by the concept. I think it sounds like a good fit for Game Pass on paper. You know, it's this service game that has cooperative elements. I get a little bit of Payday 2 inspiration from what's being written here. So that's definitely going to be something that I think could catch on very easily for people and be a hit. And I think overall it's a good play for Xbox to try this. And so speaking of service games, Sea of Thieves. This is one of Xbox's big successes, and I got a pretty unexpected update. Captain Jack Sparrow, alongside an original story, is heading to this game June 22nd. I don't know how expansive this original story is, but oddly enough, it sort of addressed one of my complaints, and I think many other people's complaints of Sea of Thieves, which is that when the action's going on and you're interacting with other players, it is some of the most online fun you can really have. But you have to find the fun, right? You have to really sometimes search for that fun and wander before you stumble upon it. And I think that's sort of the hook for a lot of people, which I understand and respect. But with something like an original story being added, I think this might be that type of content people like myself are like, I can go and know I'm going to do a thing and it will happen, right? I don't know if I'm explaining that properly, and if you share those feelings for Sea of Thieves. But what did you think of a little bit of Jack Sparrow making his way to the Sea of Thieves?
I think the voice actor sounded pretty close to
I thought it was real.
I thought it was real. And there was a couple times where I was like, he enunciates very well, which Johnny Depp does not do. Johnny Depp's got a lot of slurring. A lot of, he's got a lot of the Elvis Presley thing going on, and he has for years. And so it's very difficult sometimes to know if that's him or not. And this person who did his voice was enunciating very clearly, which also could have been Johnny Depp enunciating clearly. Who knows? But it sounded close enough. Some of the other characters sound close enough. As for Sea of Thieves, no, I could care less. I don't enjoy Sea of Thieves, and I don't think it's a very good game that they delivered to us. I think that now it is, but I think that a lot of it is because of the players. And a little bit like Fallout 76 supposedly has an amazing community, and they sort of create the game. Admittedly, Fallout 76 has stepped up. So has Sea of Thieves, but I don't want them to step up. I don't give my job is to not pay money, even for a subscription, and have you release shit to me. In fact, you said, Contraband sounded a little bit like a good Game Pass game, and to me, that was the fear of God. I don't want any game being stated or sold as a good Game Pass game. What I want is a game to be good and me to feel lucky it's on Game Pass. Those are completely opposites, and I'm nervous. I would not want this to happen. Cool thing about Sea of Thieves is it has improved, and then suddenly you get this, which is even cooler for those people who like it and might, draw somebody in, which I don't know if Fallout 76 drew people in as much with those. It did, but I think it's a little confusing because it's like, so there were no people, now there's people, blah, 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 where this is like, okay, everybody pretty much knew what it was offering. Now this is offering a fairly solid, we know what we're getting, and I think that's a positive. Also, to be free. I'm sure, right? I mean, as far as I know, all that stuff is free, and then you buy like pants, pantaloons, and so that's the way to do it. I mean, again, I don't want to celebrate Sea of Thieves because I actually think they dicked us over, but I do want to celebrate that they've fixed it, and
I'm sure Ben's scrubbing the audio as we speak. Ben's a big Sea of Thieves guy. He's always streaming it. I always see our editor.
Gotcha.
He's always streaming it, and he's probably listening to this like, motherfuckers. Yeah.
Does he?
Yeah, all the time.
Well, I'm sure he didn't like it day one. That would be impossible. But I mean, really?
I don't know.
Well, then I would be like, I wouldn't let him say motherfucker to us. I'd be like motherfucker to you. Because there was nothing there to like. Sorry. But I do like these open, I don't know how you describe it, where they're just like, it's almost like you didn't play this, I'm sure, because it's like, it's even before my time, but there were a couple MMOs that were like based in futuristic stuff where it was just open. I think it was called Second Life. Yeah, Second Life. Where it's just this crazy MMO where weird shit happens because there was nothing there day one. They just gave you tools. They were like, here's the tools, you do, whatever. And it's still around, by the way. So in a weird way, I think Second Life, dude, people sell like movie star and TV and rappers do concerts in it. And it's weird.
Really?
But yeah, Sea of Thieves, I mean, what can you say? Like, it's an open thingy. I don't even know how to describe that game. And they're adding more things to the thingy, which is cool. They got AI too, right? Don't they? In the last year or two? They added AI too, right? In the last year or two? Because remember, that didn't even happen. You couldn't even get the enemies to attack you back in the day. Like, there was all kinds of issues with that game when it first came out.
I didn't play it,
but I think all that's been
to
fixed.
tell you the truth. So
yeah, that game
so I think maybe that's part of the
man.
positive word of mouth, if anything, right? Is like most people were like me, just hopping in, going, "All right, we'll try it." I do want to say, like, because I think you make a really good point about Game Pass games. It's like you want the good game that you feel lucky to have on Game Pass. But do you think there's some nuance there? Because I personally do, where it's like there are certain games that you look at and go, that might be a little out there for me to spend my money on, but I want to try it out. Like, I'm curious enough to try it, almost like a demo, but I don't know if I want to spend my money on it. Like, I think one example we have on this list is Party Animals. I think that looks like a fun time. I think it is what I would call a good Game Pass game, because I don't know if I would fully commit and be like, yeah, I'm going to put my money down right away, but I want to see what this is about. And if I like it, then I will buy it. Do you think there's just to pick your brain a little bit more on some of your thoughts, I just want to know if you feel the same in that area.
Well, you have to feel the same because it's offered. There is Game Pass. So yes, that conversation can now come up where it couldn't come up prior to Game Pass, but I won't celebrate it. As in, I don't want that conversation to happen, because I do feel that games being made for Game Pass are in a way, I feel, and I know I'm alone, I feel the same way about achievements and trophies. I do not want games made with those as their driving factor. That's that's
I agree.
The thing that scares me.
And when Matt Booty tried to say, like, yeah, we don't make games with Game Pass in mind, I'm like, bro, come on, really?
Yeah, I mean, and
I don't
we,
really believe that.
I don't know if I do. I mean, and I don't know what he means versus what we mean too, because I'm sure he doesn't pay a subscription. Well, I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe employees have to pay a subscription, but I would assume the guy who runs everything doesn't. But it's a different thought process, and I just don't want. I do not want. It's the same way when you say, if you hear people talk about games, we're going to talk about it. Battlefield has no single player, so we can talk about it the same way. When something. And you see people trying to sell towards what they do have, and they're like, well, I just don't like that conversation. Instead, I want a full-blooded game, and that game should be priced at whatever. I don't know much about that furry shoot-each-other game, I think is the one you're talking about. It's like Among Us.
Yeah. No, it's like they're just like physics-based, like you're just knocking each other all over the place. I think people compare it to like Human Fall Flat or Gang Beasts, like kind of that dragging people around.
Free MMOs are the same thing anyway. Like they're all free MMOs. Instead of selling you on Game Pass, they sell you on microtransactions. So in the end, it's all the same. I mean, it's all just a different delivery mechanism, I guess. I just don't want games being made towards it because I feel they feel different.
Pick your brain on that a little bit because I think you made a good point. Just it was something I thought of. Speaking of Game Pass, Yakuza Like a Dragon now completes the entire Yakuza series. It is now officially on Game Pass. This is a prediction I made in my video, and I was not surprised at all. This seemed like a pretty obvious get for Xbox at this point. They had everything, but it's been a long enough time. So please do go try that out. I actually just bought the game about a month and a half ago.
And it was exclusive on Game Pass, right? Or sorry, it was exclusive on Xbox.
Yeah, for 2 months it was exclusive to the Series X next gen.
Series X.
Yeah,
it should have been day one on Game Pass. Like, surprising it wasn't, but yeah.
I don't blame Sega for not doing that, though. I feel like that game's broad appeal was already limited. Now it's starting to come out of its shell more with Judgment. We're seeing Lost Judgment coming. People are really picking up steam with Yakuza. I think that's because of Game Pass. But, you know, I don't blame him for not doing it. I do wonder what happens with the next set of games from the Yakuza series and how that goes with Xbox in mind. Now, you brought up Battlefield 2042. Seems we share some similar enthusiasm for that. It's coming October 22nd, 2021. No Game Pass. There was a weird rumor flying around for a while. You can listen to some of the old episodes. Every time it comes up, I just couldn't help myself but go, like, where is this coming from? I think it's really just people having a desire for it, but it is not coming to Game Pass as of now. We don't know if that'll change down the line, but this was their probably place to announce it. 128 players on the Battlefield for series consoles and 64 for previous gen. There's a grapple gun we saw, a tornado that dynamically entered the map. It changed how the lighting was. It changed particle effects all over the place. How combat was approached. I was wowed by this game, Carrick. I was actually very surprised by what I saw here. As I've gotten older, I became more of a Battlefield guy. You know, growing up in high school with that Call of Duty background, this was the more sophisticated transformation for me. I love the destruction. I love the thoughtful design behind the maps of Battlefield and how you can really chop them up into all manner of ways for different modes. I just always appreciated Battlefield's design, but this looks like on another level. What I saw there, of course, they're selling us it was a damn good trailer, right? Like they were trying to sell us the action and the moments. But I felt like they hit all the beats that, to me, when I looked at it, I went, this looks different from what I've seen with previous Battlefield games. Now, you said it looked really good. So what did overall you think of what we saw for Battlefield's gameplay?
I think whoever their editor is was told, let's pretend there's a single-player game by cutting up the multiplayer to appear single-player. And if you don't believe me, go watch the trailer again. That trailer is distinctly made in a way no other Battlefield trailer has ever been made, to make it appear as if the multiplayer is going to overlap the single player that's missing. That is for sure. Like, you can tell. Every moment with the weird scripted one-liners, the weird things they were saying, all completely there to make people miss the single player less. I think graphically, particle systems-wise, it looked awesome. I don't care about the game at all. I don't want a multiplayer-only game, so I'll play it on the side, maybe. But I'm not excited for it or anything. I think the...
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood then.
No, but the particle effect, dude, you know me, I'm a graphics whore. So, like, particle effects, I'm really excited for. They just looked amazing. But I can see through all the PR bullshit, and especially when the fake voices started popping up to make you feel like you were almost like in a team of people in the single player version. I was like, oh my god, it was like which I'm sure I would have done that too if I worked on I saw people bitching about no single player. I'd be like, hey, I got an idea. Let's make the multiplayer feel like that, almost like the fake Ubisoft Division 2 trailer. Did you ever see that, or Division 1?
Yeah, I think they did it again with some game, but I like tuned in and out. I think it was Extraction or something. They did the fake voices. I was like,
yeah, but it wasn't near as bad as Division. Division's was bad. They're like, so we need 32 pieces of blah blah blah. Let's go here. And you were just like, dude, no one plays that. No one plays. No one plays like that. They either you hear racism, sexism, cussing, or burping. No one's talking. Burping or farting, admittedly, like when we play, we do try to do some tactics, but it's just not like that, right? But getting off of that for a second, hey, graphically it looked awesome. Battlefield has, I've liked all the Battlefields to some extent. I don't buy into the weird, just because single player's gone, multiplayer will magically be better. Like, you might as well, like, that is some crazy next level. It's never been, I tweeted about this. In the history of gaming, that is not how it's, in fact, in the history of, like, products, that is not how it works. It is not how it works. And so you see a lot of people saying, oh, multiplayer will definitely be better, blah, blah. No. It's going to be whatever it is, and there is no overlap on that. It'll be interesting to see what they offer. I don't see a multiplayer Battlefield holding numbers, though. And I wasn't aware how bad they are at holding numbers until I talked to some Battlefield fans. Yeah. That was actually, I will say my opinion changed a little bit. I was sort of like, oh, no, single player, that sucks. I probably, I'll check it out for review. Maybe it'll surprise me, right? And then somebody from the Battlefield community DM'd me, and they're like, dude, not only that, let me explain to you how, like, sharded the numbers are and how, which ones do well and how they lose their fan base, I guess. That sucks, too, because if you're going to do an MP game, we're getting to the point where you can't review the MP game without, at the very minimum, talking about the longevity of the MP game.
Yep.
And it's getting rough, man. Some of these MP games are because of Twitch, and like they take their entire community with them. 100,000 people maybe watching a person Twitch it. They're getting paid. We know people are getting paid to Twitch half of these games, and then they go to another game and boom, that game dies.
Yeah, I was invited to like a Battlefield preview event, and I was just like, "Oh, do I get to play it?" They're like, "You get to watch it." I'm like, "No."
That's what I saw too.
Yeah, I was like, "No."
I don't know if you saw, but somebody recorded like a bunch of people watching the CGI freaking out, and I was like, "Are we really there? Is that where we are? Where you're freaking about the CGI? It's not like a movie where that's going to be representative of the movie because it is the movie. This is, I don't know, man." I don't know where we are. Hey, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it's amazing.
I mean that with no disrespect to anyone who did take up that opportunity. Just for me, man, when I hear that, I'm just like, really? Like, dude, I could sit on a couch and fucking do the same thing. Like,
yeah, right. At your home. Like almost like not going to E3
It doesn't require, I don't think it requires the thing that we're equipped for. It doesn't require us to put our hands on the game and, really start to critique it and break it down. And I just think it's really disappointing that we're trending in that direction. But before I go off track, Battlefield 2042. I like what I saw.
Gun sounds were great.
I didn't even catch that. No, that's a good point. I didn't catch that.
They're phenomenal. Yeah, the gun sounds in that game. Yeah,
I feel like DICE is typically pretty good with audio. At least from Battlefront, you could get that very much. So, I think with the campaign, a lot of people believe it was addition by subtraction. Like, hey, the campaigns for Battlefield have never grabbed me, so therefore we shouldn't have one here. I understand that, but the same thing happened with Call of Duty for a while, right? There was that like, oh, we don't need the campaign, and then there was a demand for it to come back. For me, I never understood that because in the case of Call of Duty, there were some good campaigns, and I say this pretty openly. I thought Black Ops Cold War was a fucking awesome campaign. I really liked it. I thought it was a good time, and it was by the people who made Singularity. Please play that game if you have yet to. It's a really underrated gem from the 360 and PS3 era. But I thought they did a good job with that. And it's like, man, if we're cutting out campaigns, we might not get those types of stories. So yeah, you could get another dude bro shooter in a Battlefield campaign, but I don't think it's a reason for them to stop trying and just suddenly say, well, we can't innovate on this anymore. For me, it does not have me so up in arms though, because I have experiences like Overwatch, where the first year and a half of Overwatch, I fucking loved, man. That was like crack to me. I was all over that game.
Yeah, if it catches on, we're in good shape.
Hours. Yeah,
right?
but it's obviously the if, because that's number one, very rare for me, right? It's very rare that I stick for a game online. Like, it's Smite and Overwatch. Those are the two things in the last decade that I stuck around with for multiple years. Other than that, it's just been like, let's try this out. Oh, I like this, but it doesn't stick for one reason or another. And Battlefield, as you said, and statistically we've seen, has had a real big problem with sticking. So they got a lot of prove with this one, but I like what I saw. I really did.
Yeah. So did I.
Next one, I personally don't have much to say on. 12 minutes. We've been talking about this game a lot. Finally got a release date. It's coming August 19th, 2021. Listen very closely to these next couple of sections here, because Xbox is doing a really good job packing their summer, which is typically a dead time. We got some new releases there. Like I said, day one Game Pass, though. This is that game where you replay the narrative over and over and over. And, of course, it doesn't only go for 12 minutes long, but that's kind of the idea. It's based around anything you'd like to add for 12 minutes.
Is this the William Dafoe one?
Yeah, Willem Dafoe, Daisy Ridley, James McAvoy.
Daisy. How you doing?
Love Daisy Ridley.
I do too. And James McAvoy, you said, is in it?
Mm-hmm.
Well then, I mean, just because I like those guys, I'm definitely super high interest in it from the voice standpoint. The rest, we'll just have to see. But I mean, it is an indie game. An indie game with big voice actors, though. I mean, that's pretty backwards, which is cool.
I always wonder about
that's
budget.
Cool in a weird way.
I always wonder about budget. Like, how much do they really cost?
Well, I do know that some voice actors, Japan was, or not voice actor, but Japan was hiring full-on actors. Like, so back in the day, a main actor couldn't do an insurance commercial in America. It was considered lowbrow. So, like, if you were a AAA movie star, you would never see them pimping insurance, right? Where now you've got like Jason Statham out there spin kicking volleyballs, because it's like, why? It doesn't. But in Japan, they were doing that for years, and it wasn't as expensive as you would think. Also, Fiverr. This is going to sound really weird. It sounds like a tangent, but it's not. Fiverr and the other website, I can't remember the name, but you can hire voice actors to like leave you a birthday message, and they are surprisingly cheap.
Oh, Cameo. Yeah.
Cameo, surprisingly cheap. We're talking like, dude, I think it's cheap. But to get a birthday message from like, Sylvester Stallone for $35 is like, the fuck? What?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming they're paid via a retainer that is around the audio part and not the visual part. So that would be less. That would, and I'm sure the actor would like that, because I just did the Trevor interview. He did F is for Family. He's done multiple movies. He did Final Fantasy, and he told me, he's like, dude, when you do voice acting, you look at other acting and you're like, fuck that. Like, why? Why do I need to get dressed up if I can go in, and do voices? Go
into your booth with your pajamas and just...
And dude, he's like, well, he does it with other people even, which is rare. Okay. Like the Hitman guy, he does it by himself. A couple others have done it. But yeah, he gets to go in with others. And of course, they could do pajamas if they wanted, but they're just like hanging out doing voices. So it might not be as expensive as you think. Mark Hamill, look at Star Citizen. They had a lot of money to throw around, but they did end up getting Gary Oldman. I'm assuming Gary Oldman as an actor costs a metric shit ton. But as a mocapped guy and voice acting, there may be a tier difference that we're not aware of.
It's got to be, right? You got to imagine.
Yeah,
it's like Daisy's a big name. I feel Willem Dafoe, like, damn.
They're all those guys are, if you saw their names anywhere, I would assume you would think maybe Dafoe might be not AAA as a leading man, but like as a weirdo, he would definitely be AAA. It depends on his position. Well, but that is Dafoe, right? I mean, he's a character. He's like Steve Buscemi. You wouldn't say as a romantic lead, but as a weirdo, he'd definitely be top tier. So yeah, man, that's exciting. That's exciting to me. The game, not so much, but the people involved, it makes me want to play it.
I'm definitely interested in the game. ID at Xbox program helped produce that one, so looking forward to seeing what comes out of that.
Yeah.
Psychonauts 2, this one was expected to be there. Finally got its release date. Been hanging around for a while. It's coming August 25th, 2021. Day one Game Pass again. Just a real psychedelic trailer. Lots of colors, lots of weird stuff going on. You're riding down a pachinko machine or whatever it was. I forgot what they're called. They had the mini game in Shenmue where you would like drop the coin down the pegs.
Yeah,
and
that's what it is.
Okay, it is. All right, yeah. So They had that in there, and yeah, it was just, it looked like a good time. It actually kind of sold me on it more. At first I was like, oh, this is just really out there, like whatever. But when I saw it, I went, hey, this looks kind of like a fun little 3D platformer collectathon. So I actually think I'm going to get around to playing it. I'm looking forward to it, provided there's time to play it. But with you, Carrick, where do you sit on this zany, weird-ass title?
I don't know. I don't remember the first one at all. It's been so long. The first one was original Xbox. Like yeah, it was a platformer. It looked goofy. It was back in the day of like Beyond Good and Evil, if not prior to that. So, and I remember liking it, but I couldn't even tell you like the characters' names or any. I mean, it's ancient. This has been in making forever. So, I don't really have much to add other than, I'll play it when it comes out for sure. But and yeah, it looked weird, but that's what the game is known for, psychedelic.
I have nothing else to add as well. In the middle of all this, Pete Hine hits the stage, lets us know 10 more iconic Bethesda games can be played on Game Pass today across Windows, PC, console, and cloud. Arx Fatalis is now on PC Game Pass. Dishonored, Death of the Outsider.
Wait, I'm sorry, stop.
Game. Oh, sorry.
Did you say Arx Fatalis?
Yeah.
A new Arx Fatalis or the fucking ancient Arx?
Yeah, the old one.
Jesus.
Yeah, right.
Well, wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. That's original. So then the backwards compatibility must be working because that.
No,
or was
PC,
that already
PC Game Pass?
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
I got you.
I've heard me say that. Yeah,
I you said it. I'm sure. Okay, gotcha. Continue.
You know where you'll see where they got me because I thought it was console as well. Because there's Dishonored, Death of the Outsider. That's console, PC, cloud. Doom is Doom 2016. I should specify is console and PC Game Pass. Evil Within is across all three. Rage 1 has been added to Game Pass. This is console and PC. Love Rage 1. Give it a look if you like Fallout and Mad Max stuff. Wolfenstein 2, New Colossus across all three, Windows, PC, console, and cloud. This is where they got me, Carrick. Fallout 1, Fallout 2, Fallout Tactics have been added to Game Pass. I'm like, holy shit, they're finally doing it. They're bringing the classic Fallout games to console. Only PC Game Pass did not see the logo. And then Fallout 3 is being added to PC, console, and cloud Game Pass. So these are all available now across their various platforms. And you can experience them whenever you like. But I think it's cool that Xbox is really adding, these very ancient games like Arx Fatalis, Fallout 1, 2, and Tactics. Tactics especially, like I know that's not really anyone's favorite Fallout. It's got some cool things going on for it, but otherwise it's just kind of there. So it's cool that they're just keeping the history ingrained in the Game Pass system. Speaking of Fallout, let's move on to our next one. Fallout 76 Steel Rain update. It's going to be free. It's arriving July 7th. It's going to wrap up the Brotherhood storyline, where it looks like there is a internal warring between factions. This has kind of been ongoing throughout multiple updates. There was Steel Dawn, believe at the end of last year, if I remember correctly. And then there are expeditions, which are teased for 2022. It's our first sniff of leaving the Appalachian Wasteland. Since the game released in 2018, this is a big request for people. Get NPCs in and then get us the hell out of West Virginia. For a while, Bethesda insisted this would not be as possible as people thought it would be. We don't know to what extent expeditions will be. Will they be fully explorable open areas? Will they be just these quick missions you do in these areas? We're not sure yet, but it takes you to the pit, which was the location of a Fallout 3 DLC, one of the very best, in my opinion. I thought this was interesting, but they got me, Carrick. I thought with the camera pulling out, I was like, yo, they're teasing a new Fallout game real quick. Oh, my God. But they did not. It's just expeditions.
Is expeditions going to be like a... Oh, sorry.
I was just going to ask what you make of the future of Fallout, but what was your question?
Well, in this is Fallout... So Fallout 76, I don't even know where it is right now. It's got people in it, right?
Yeah.
That was added. And it's got a single-player story that goes on after the first few levels now? Or is it got a... Does it have a single-player story? Or is it
yes.
more just open? Okay. Does Expeditions then, is it Radiant quests?
Okay, so there was a interesting leak about a month or two ago, and this is, by the way, like an official leak, so to say, because they were assets like in the game that were data mined. But
Yeah.
they were assets of a location in Fallout 3 for expeditions, and it looked like a section of what you've seen in Fallout 3. I forgot the specific area; the name's not coming to me right now. But you can see like the Washington Monument deep in the background. So we don't know
Okay.
how open and explorable they will be, if at all. Expedition to me suggests like mission, like go out and complete a couple of missions in an area.
Yeah.
I would hope Bethesda would be self-aware to know, hey, if we just send them there for a mission or two, this is going to be really underwhelming. Like people want to explore and see new things. But yeah, they've added a lot to this game, right? They had the original story, which was really just chasing ghosts. Then they revamped that story alongside Wastelanders, adding certain NPCs throughout the path that you take. Then the Wastelanders had its own story. Then they added Steel Dawn with its new story with the Brotherhood of Steel. And now they're wrapping that up and they're doing Expedition. So this game's on a pretty good pace right now, I'd say. I think they're addressing a lot of the requests of fans. And this is kind of going to be when I tune back in. I'll do the Steel Rain update. And then I will dive into Expeditions whenever that comes around. So it's actually, when I think about it, one of the few service games that gets me in for every update. I'll play it, beat it, move on. So not too bad. But what do you make of it as someone from the outside?
I was more hoping. Well, that's why I was asking, because I was more hoping it was exploration, but also Radiant missions. Because I've stated this before, better Radiant missions. But when Skyrim first came out, and you'd go to the bartender or whatever, and he would give you a Radiant mission, at least at first, because there was no, you were online, but it was like game facts. You could never trust what the fuck they were saying. And you didn't know it wasn't a quest. Now, they weren't amazing, but the game did something that I thought was pretty intelligent, which is it tracked where you had gone and where you hadn't, and those Radiant quests would send you to where you hadn't. And sometimes you would repeat, but it was actually, and Todd's talked about it in some interviews where it's like the idea was to get you to explore the world through those Radiant quests. I like that idea and I want it to continue. So I actually would like Fallout 76 to me, expeditions also mean almost like old colonial, put the, coonskin hat on, you got your flintlock and you go out into the woods and you get 50 muskrats or something. Like, I don't know how they would work that into Fallout, but I think that would be also cool if they were like, if there were explorations, you go out there, maybe you have a cabin you can build, out somewhere, all that kind of stuff. I just don't know enough about the game to know if any of that is even possible. But I think it is, because you can build anywhere, right? I mean, in Fallout 76, can't you build it? Yeah, so
They've added daily ops, so there's repeatable. Well,
content. That's the start of what I would like. I'm actually a firm believer in Radiant quests. In particular, Radiant quests. I actually think the idea is freakishly sound, especially with AI and what you can do with AI and testing where somebody's been, what they're engaging with, and stuff like that, making it interesting to the player. So I don't know if that's what they're doing, but I'll watch it, because I did see that was actually the only time I've ever had any interest in Fallout 76 is at E3 when they showed the expeditions. And I was like, oh, wait, what does that mean? So,
I think a good sign. Yeah, I think with Radiant Quest and Skyrim, the best example for me was with the Thieves Guild, where you felt like you were just kind of doing random quests just for fun, but they would restore the honor to the Thieves Guild, and then there was kind of an ending behind it all. If they did something like that, where it was kind of replayable content, progression based, that's something that 76 really has struggled with, is that recurrent content.
Yeah, because I need something to get me to go back in.
Yeah,
exactly.
Party Animals, we kind of talked about this one already, so I'm sure we'll breeze right by. It's coming 2022, day one Game Pass. Looks fun. Just a bunch of animals throwing each other around. At one point, they throw each other into the fire. It's hilarious looking. Looks like it'd be a good time with friends. And so, like I said, day one Game Pass. Anything of value to add here, my friend?
Nope.
Feel you on that one. August fun continues. Hades, day one Game Pass. Want to specify this is also coming to PlayStation. A lot of people thought that Xbox was sort of pulling a Houdini again with Nintendo, where they extracted Octopath Traveler, and PlayStation somehow doesn't have that game yet. But Hades is also coming to PlayStation the same day. Just if you're an Xbox fan, you don't got to pay for it. It's already on Game Pass. That's August 13th, 2021. Hades, one of my top 5 games of 2020. Very excited about this one. Do you have an adoration for this game as deep as I do, or I don't think we've talked about this one much.
No, I know it's good. I just never got a chance. I think at the time I was doing Loop Hero, and I'm not really a huge fan of those kind of games anyway. I've watched people play it, and like it looks fun for them, but it's just not my kind of game.
Okay.
I do think it is funny that normally when you sell a console, you look at how many games would you buy before you decide, or how many games do you want before you decide the console's worth it. What's completely weird about Game Pass is it's how many games do you not want to buy before it's worth it. Yeah. Which is the weirdest fucking thing because of Game Pass. Because you said that's free on Game Pass, and I'm sitting here just looking at the prices, the multiple games on Game Pass and the price of Game Pass. Mm-hmm. And it's such an odd dichotomy to have this weird divergent way in which each console is worth something for a completely now ridiculously different reason. Like, it's weird that Hades is free, because I saw somebody else say that in a podcast, and I didn't pick up on what he was saying. But he was talking about Hades, and he said something along the lines of that, where he was just like, it's exclusive for me. And they were like, no, it's not. And he's like, no, it is, because I don't have to pay for it. It's on Game Pass. So it's exclusive for me.
In a way, yeah.
And it's not the proper way. I'm sure somebody listening is going to be like, but it's not. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is his thought process is actually pretty sound, which is that it's just one more. And Hades is a big game. It's a very popular game.
Absolutely. Take it from me, ladies and gentlemen. I've made it pretty clear on Ham Radio for those who overlap and listen there that like Returnal I have downloaded. And I'm kind of hesitant to start it because these games are not my cup of tea. These roguelike, repeatable, run through the dungeons, very light progression. Hades, I was hooked to, man. Like, this game was ridiculously good. I felt like it did a good job of driving something continuous forward, giving you a proper narrative reason to keep replaying at the same time as giving you legitimate progression. So each time you come back, it doesn't feel like you've lost something. It's just so expertly crafted. And when you really look at Xbox's August, to me, this is one of the most impressive parts of the presentation. You've got 3 brand new launches in August. That's like unheard of. Now, I know Hades isn't technically brand new, but 12 Minutes and Psychonauts 2 are. But Hades coming to a new console, and that's day one Game Pass. I mean, that's a typically really dead time for gaming, man. It really is. So for them to hit 3 pretty interesting games, maybe not for everybody, but 3 different games. And also, one thing we touched on is Xbox and their artsiness. We don't really see that often. It's typically associated with PlayStation. A lot of these games are artsy. Like Psychonauts is really out there. 12 Minutes seems like a very deep narrative thriller. Hades, of course, is this action-packed, art-driven game. You know, it's very beautiful and colorful, just splashing it everywhere. So a different pace for Xbox here that I really appreciated coming out of this showcase.
Well, hopefully more people follow that, because Cuphead, Ori, Microsoft has been doing this for years, and people just haven't given them. I mean, if this was Sony,
I'm talking
people
3 in a month, though. That's a pretty
masturbating
big
into their own face. I mean, yeah, sure, it is, but it's just like at the same time, I guess if you've already been there and looked at it, you're like, why? You know, nobody's going to celebrate it anyway. You just know they're not. Like at some point, I mean, I get your hope, but I just, it's awesome. It's awesome, and I guess my hope is not that Microsoft cares about the people reacting, but cares about the people who aren't and appreciate it. Because I do appreciate Cuphead being made. Falconeer, by the way, another exclusive for Microsoft by Tobias, is a really unique game, and it's artsy fartsy. You know, that's the only way to describe it. It really is. Damn. And I'm glad they're doing them. Concrete Genie, on the other hand, you got to hats off to fucking Sony, because they did Concrete Genie, which was also primo. So I just like those kind of games. I end up finding out those are my favorites. Are the weird.
They're typically trying something very specifically different, right?
Yeah, and I don't hit all of them because art won't hit you. Some cell shaded, you'll be like, it's not hitting me. But like, dude, when Cuphead got announced, that was Looney Tunes kind of stuff. That was like, oh my god.
That's like me
who would have
with
thought of that.
With Eiyuden Chronicle. It's this Octopath art style that I fucking love. It's probably my favorite art style.
What about cartoons? It would have. I mean, South Park. When the South Park RPG got announced, I mean, weren't you like, oh my god, it's South Park as a game?
Yeah,
like that's ridiculous.
Like
it looks like the show, which admittedly it can, because the show looks like dump. So like we can do that in a game. The game looks better than the show because the game can be controlled. But yeah, dude, it's awesome, man. Not to get off the subject, but I think it is awesome that we get these artsy fartsy games. Even if other people don't celebrate them, like I think it's great Microsoft's doing it.
Absolutely. Next up is Halo Infinite. This was interesting because at the pace the show is at, for those who are keeping track, we're going in the order of all the announcements, as I said. And what's very interesting about Halo is I thought this would sort of be like Halo and Starfield, I imagine, as the bookends. Like, okay, we're going to start with either Halo or Starfield. We're going to end with either Halo or Starfield. Halo's in the middle of the showcase here. So we learn it's coming this holiday. No date. That's going to be a big focal point for me with this conversation. We got a cinematic trailer where Chief is sort of floating through space. He's gently pushing Marines to the side. He's aggressively pushing through debris, however, until he reaches a part of this ship where he sees another AI. He's asking about Cortana, which she's been deleted, she said. And so he's got this new AI buddy he's plugging in the back of his head, indicating that he'll have a new companion along the way. Kind of reminded me of Rivet and Clank, with Ratchet and Clank really changing up the dynamic. That kind of a familiar interaction of, say, Ratchet and Clank is now been drastically altered. So I'm very curious to see where they go with that. But on top of that, they do multiplayer. They do a multiplayer kind of overview trailer showcasing some of the physics, the sandbox nature of Halo multiplayer. And what we saw was Hayabusa armor, samurai armor, and we see grenades blowing up near energy swords, popping them up into the air, being able to grab them. You're using grappling hooks and pulling stuff to you, like these giant energy pods or just weapons in general. There was a very dynamic nature. I think they did a really good job with this, Carrick, in a way. I looked at it, and then they did a follow-up Halo deep dive for about 12 minutes the next day, and it was really touching on the entire design of this multiplayer and really what made it Halo. And they started touching on things like how battle passes will work, where there's not going to be a time limit for them, that it's just cosmetic only, and that this free-to-play drive is really helping them out. So I like a lot of what I saw here. The biggest concern, however, what really held me back from being like, hey, give me this game, I'm ready, was they didn't commit to a date. And if what people are going to nitpick about this is, well, Maddie, who cares? It's coming. But please, I insist, look at every other game that was announced for 2021. It got a date. They literally showed at the end, Phil Spencer's on stage, and he brings up this entire image. He's like, here's our roadmap, stuff coming in 2022, stuff coming in 2021. You know, and Xbox really showing they're addressing that Xbox has no games complaint. They did a good job with that. So I don't want to have that be completely disregarded, but for some reason a trailer's playing on my phone. But yeah, I don't know how that actually happened. Like, I had my browser open. I guess my thumb hit a trailer. But what I was getting at was Halo was the only one missing a date. It was the only one missing a date. I don't know how people don't find that concerning. It looks great, but I still find it concerning that they couldn't say it's coming out in November or it's coming out December. Am I crazy for how much they showed and how they gave everything else a date, but they didn't give this one a date? What? Not to drive the conversation too hard, but what did you make of that? I know also you've been harsh on Halo, more harsh than me, I should say. So yeah, that's why I also wanted to pick your thoughts on it a little bit more.
If they don't say a date, they're not sure the date, which we bitched about what it looked like. So they probably want to make sure it's great. And maybe they just don't want to put a date down just in case some disaster happens and they can't hit it, and they don't want people to get even madder. Cyberpunk has changed things. So I don't care. I don't have any concern for it. If it comes out next year, I'm fine. If it comes out that day, if it comes out Christmas Day, I'll be fine. If it comes out October, I'm fine. So I don't know if concern would be the right word. It's obvious. It's noticeable, I guess, is what I would say. Like, you would have to be an idiot to not realize it is the only one. Because even when I was watching the stream, I was like, that's the only one where they didn't say the exact time it's coming out. Even Starfield, which is a long time, You know, they didn't say next year. They were like,
yeah, I didn't want to be
boom.
redundant, but yeah,
Yeah,
right.
But well, that's not redundant.
Date.
That's like, yeah, they committed to that date, and that date's a long ways away, and so it's not like they could be like, we, you know, it's going to hurt us. But yeah, I mean, my assumption is, you know, maybe the team is just like, please, Phil, don't say a date, man, because we don't know exactly when it's ready. Now, I will say, but that doesn't really concern me, nor do I care, because I'll play it, you know, and I'm going to hope it's good. But what does, what I'm really, I don't understand, what's free to play about it?
The multiplayer.
The multiplayer's always been
components.
free.
What do you mean? No,
You've never had to pay. When I buy Halo, I put it in. Multiplayer was playable.
No, like free, downloadable, separate. Like even if you do not buy Halo Infinite, that doesn't matter. Halo Infinite, you're paying for the campaign. The multiplayer, like you could just literally like Smite, like any other free Fantasy Star.
And they're
game,
trying
like,
to pretend like that's a big deal. Okay, I got you. Okay. All right, so they split it off.
Personally, I think it's a big deal. I think it's a pretty big shift for them. Yeah, you've always had to pay for the full package, and now they're just. I think it's a pretty big shift because it changes absolutely how they're designing it. Right, the battle pass and stuff, the microtransactions. Some people, myself included, are pretty encouraged by what they're saying and showing. But of course, until you get in there and you really start interacting with the systems and seeing what it's all about, you don't know how aggressive it'll be.
But it's always been free, right? I just want to make sure it's always been free. We haven't had to buy it in addition to the thing. No, the multiplayer has always been in the game, correct? It's always been free in the game. Yeah,
but you have to pay for the game to then.
But it's still, they're sort of pretending. Okay, I get you. But what I'm saying is, I don't understand why they're using that term. It has always been in the game for free, correct? I just want to make sure.
Right now. No, it's not.
Well, in the last game, I did not have to buy something else to play multiplayer, correct? I bought the game and it was in there. Is that not correct?
Yeah, but free to play is like you don't have to own the game.
Yeah, no, I get
it.
I get it. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
Okay,
because I don't remember 5. No, I don't think it's a big deal at all. I'm not a big multiplayer fan though. So anybody who likes the multiplayer, I've never really met a lot of people who like both. So as in most people I know buy Halo I buy it for single player, they buy it for the multiplayer. So what I mean is for me that's not a big deal. For them it's a very big deal.
Yeah.
But it's just going to be filled with microtransactions, so I don't know why we would celebrate that. So, I mean, there's that too.
I'll play a wait and see approach as I even have done this with EA.
I'm sure somebody's going to bitch and be like, "Oh no, he's fucking pretending it's not a big deal," because there's always people bitching about everything. It seems like lately. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I wanted to make sure that the free to play made sense because I did not remember if 5. It would be 5, right? Or no, it would be 6. What was the last Halo? 5.
5 Guardians.
I wanted to make sure 5 hadn't already done something I'd just forgotten because it was so forgettable. I was like, I was legitimately confused if that was like also separated. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I don't know a lot of people who actually play both. Now that I think about it, I don't think I know any of my friends who play both. So I have to ask them what they think of it. How long has it been known that it's going to be free to play?
Halo Infinite? Since last year.
Okay, yeah, and I haven't heard one iota of anybody even talking about it in my Discord. Like, I've never heard anybody mention that as a thing in Discord.
I think it's one of the rare instances.
Because they're worried about the micros?
The one thing I'm worried about with multiplayer is less of its structure. Like, I think no loot boxes, that idea of no pay to win, I think that's great. I think customizing your armor, weapons, vehicles, like that's good. That's going to be the juice for the game's future updates. They want to do recurrent content every season. Sure, sounds good to me. I think the reason that I have slight concerns about the multiplayer is really because they gave us a good showcase of it, but Chris always makes this really great point, and I've sort of ran with it because I think it's a blatant kind of gap in the logic. Is they're showing a degree of transparency with Halo, but we have yet to really lay our hands on it. Where Halo 5's beta was over a year ahead of its launch. You were able to really get in and give your feedback. I did see people say that in my Discord a couple months ago. Yeah, and with Infinite, we're obviously not going to get that. We're not. That's why I was always saying, hey, maybe they're going to shadow drop a beta at E3 to finally give us our hands on time. Because at least if they're not committing to a date, they can account for that feedback. How much is there that we need to adjust? Is it fine? Can we ship it? That would make a lot more sense to me. And I was thinking maybe they even follow up the next day with this deep dive and then say like, yeah, we're doing a beta this day. but they haven't. And so I don't know if they were waiting for fan feedback before they commit again, or if they're just going to trust their process. To me, that's probably the bigger concern. On the topic of, like, you said you don't know people who play both, it actually got me thinking. Halo is it's probably the only series when it comes to multiplayer and campaign where I genuinely look forward to both.
So that means you are mad. Because you now have to play for single. You will now have to pay for single player when you won't get the package.
If it's good, I don't care. I'll pay for any good product. Like, that's just my kind of.
But here's the weird thing. So the multiplayer, okay, so this is why I'm completely confused why people would celebrate a free-to-play game. Because I'm so accustomed to everybody bitching about free-to-play that I'm not understanding why we would be happy that this is free-to-play. Does this mean that if I buy the single player, will stuff I do in the single player not unlock multiplayer stuff? Or have they said that?
There's a connection. I imagine there's a connection there. This is a good question that I'm sure someone in the audience may have an answer to. I'll look it up while we discuss more. But I would imagine if you pay $60, it's not you just load into the campaign. I would think that the multiplayer would be a part of the disc package when you load it up. You don't have to install it as a separate application.
Right, but since they are catering to a 100%, if anybody's trying to say free-to-play is not a completely different audience than, like, paid multiplayer, which is technically, even though I was considering it free-to-play, but you buy it to play it, those are completely different things. So how are they going to match up? Have they stated, like, so if I buy the single player, do I get the battle passes, or okay, I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying. Is this not, it seems to me it's going to add money to my cost, because if I buy the single player and I get, like, the multiplayer's free, right? So everybody gets that. Am I going to have to buy stuff that in the past I would not have to buy for Halo in the past because it was all on the disc? Does that make sense? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I get what you're saying. Yes, inherently through the battle passes, you would likely be spending more. I think you could say I think that's the case with any free-to-play game, right? Is you will eventually outspend the price of a normal game, and that's how you keep the content flowing. But also, it may keep Halo in a more relevant state than it's ever been, because it'll have a much larger. It's struggled with an audience. It really has. People liked Halo 5's multiplayer I don't want to say for the most part, but it was kind of, I think, more widely appreciated than 4, where 4 just kind of outright died. And I think Infinite's tapping into some great stuff. There's Pelicans that are going to be coming in and dropping off vehicles. They're not just going to spawn. There's Halo 2 weapon pods again.
That's cool.
There's just a lot of stuff that I'm seeing here that looks really good. They're saying dual wielding won't be supported at launch. We already know that.
Not in the E3 event. You're saying you're seeing this at the
this was a separate day 2 thing. They showed. I know. It's the same thing with Starfield.
Because I didn't. Just so everybody knows, I didn't watch that. I didn't see any. I know there's something the next day, and I think there's something Thursday as well. Isn't there another event?
Yeah, Thursday's for the stuff that was more conceptually announced. Like, they're going to talk about the Outer Worlds 2. I don't know to what extent, but, like,
okay.
Yeah, there was that Hellblade 2.
Okay. You know what? Going back onto this, though, I did like that Halo appeared to have a Hellblade moment when he's hearing voices. Now, the biggest problem I have with Halo right now is they wrote themselves into a corner. I think we can all agree. Like 4 and 5 started to write themselves into this weird corner with Cortana and all that stuff, where they probably should have just said, let's just keep making Halo. Like, let's just have them battle more bad guys. And instead, they tried to make it like, Romeo and Juliet, the weird chick edition. And I do think that they're trying to figure out, hey, okay, now we've got this other person who's going to join with Master Chief, right? But it's never going to be Cortana. It's never. Imagine if it wasn't Ratchet and Clank, right? It was Ratchet and Crank, and it was a dude who was gold who talked a little bit differently. You'd be like, but that's not Clank. What are we doing? So I'm going to be really interested to see what they do with Cortana. She says she's deleted, but does anybody believe that? Like, does anybody? Right. And even she said, even the OS, the new chick, even didn't she say her own deletion protocol did not run? She said go ahead.
I want to no, I was gonna say I'm actually in the process of replaying all the Halo games, not only for defining Duke Ultimate and kind of like not like re-ranking them, but just having like a pre-Halo
good knowledge
Infinite
of them.
discussion, and of course, good knowledge of them. So I don't want to speak too authoritatively on what has occurred, just because like Halo 4 I haven't played since its launch year. Halo 5 I played, I think like a couple of years after it came out and beat its campaign. Like it. So for my playthroughs, it's definitely spotty knowledge in the terms of lore. I do know this new AI was mentioned in a book. I think it was called like Shadows of Realm or something like that, or Realm of Shadows. It was some word configuration like that.
Gears of the Shadows of War.
Yeah, something along those lines. But this AI was introduced in that book. So for those who are interested in more, that's there. There was also the Razorback vehicle, where it's a new type of warthog where you can kind of load a weapon on the back, which I thought was really cool. You saw a gravity hammer on the back. On top of that, there are bots. And academy training, so you can do sort of a tutorial area for multiplayer, which I think is pretty smart since it's free to play. Let people know, there's a place you can go to sort of mess around, goof off, and I think with Battlefront, it's sort of shown people do like bot modes. They do like to just play against bots sometimes.
I mean, with our group of friends, dude, it's a blast. We did not Mortal Kombat, which Call of Duty, I don't know which one it was, the one that was a year or two ago, and whichever one that was. And we actually had a blast doing bots and us and cranking the bots up. So now I'm even, so where's Forge in all this? Is Forge free as well, or do you have to buy the game to get Forge? I'm assuming Forge is free as well, right? Or is Forge a thing anymore?
Let's see here.
Oh, sorry if I'm asking you too many. I'm actually more interested because I'm so confused on the packaging. I would like to know if Forge is...
I am actually looking right now about Forge, because now that you mention it, we know it's back. Forge is happening. Forge is 100% happening.
100% happening is what matters to me.
To what extent it is occurring. Forge is being co-developed by Skybox Labs, the studio behind Halo 5's PC map-making tool. Let's see here. Trying to just make sure there's not any other information here. Yeah, that's really it. Just Forge mode is back. So that would, I would imagine, deserve a trailer of its own. So I don't blame them for sort of holding back on that. That's the kind of additive.
Yeah, we're a ways out, right? Yeah.
I think that's like an August, September area where it's like, here's also the stuff that you can make now. Because Forge is just, of course, super popular, and I'm excited to see what they do with that. With all of its crazy tools and physics and all that stuff.
This is really interesting to me because, like, I don't remember, maybe zombies, but I think zombies went to a paid. Didn't zombies split off at one point on Call of Duty one time and have its own game? I could be wrong on that, but I thought for some reason...
I think they did a zombies game in general. Not a game, but like they did a zombies collection or something like that.
Yeah, or something like that.
I know what you're talking about. I tuned out of zombies years ago.
I gotcha. The reason why I was bringing it up is I don't remember the last time a premier single multiplayer package was split to a free-to-play, and I'm sure they've existed. I'm saying I don't remember. So I'm actually interested to see how it all comes together, and if there's a sharding of, like, the people who are going... So co-op wouldn't be included in this, obviously. Free-to-play. So you got free-to-play, you got your multiplayer, you have your Forge multiplayer side over free, I'm assuming. All with packages maybe to buy, like get items for building your Forge up. Was Forge free, so that you understand my thinking, was Forge free in the original? And do you think we'll have to buy Forge parts if it's free to play? Do you get
yeah? Do you think they're gonna add like Forge content that you have to pay for?
Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. See, I know a lot of people are just really happy, but it's like I'm always thinking there's just some way they're gonna destroy multiplayer, and I'm a big fan of Halo multiplayer when it's good, and I want that to continue to be as easy for somebody to get into. So the free to play makes sense, but if the Forge is not free, then
Forge we don't have much details on, so I can't really answer. I know with the campaign, that's a part of the campaign package. That's like co-op online. It says I double checked just to verify. 343 clarifies Halo Infinite's campaign will support 2-player split screen and 4-player online co-op, but not 4-player local co-op. So
Okay, that makes sense.
That is definitely a thing that will come with the base package itself.
This has become way more convoluted because I also don't follow battle passes very closely, and you called it something else for this game, right? It's called battle passes for. Is it battle passes for this?
Yeah,
one?
It's battle pass for this. Yeah.
So what's the difference between a battle pass and a season pass?
Season pass, to me, I get what you're saying here. Like, to me, a season pass is more like, here are multiple released expansions or pieces of content that you can get that directly add to the game. Like I think if you bought the Outer World season pass, right, you're gonna get those 2 expansions.
The DLC.
Yes. Whereas technically Battle Pass is the same thing, right? You're getting downloadable content, but I think Battle Pass is more seasonal, more iterative, where it's adding constantly. It's like, here's the second Battle Pass, the third Battle Pass, and it kind of comes together more in the way of cosmetic rewards for playing a game. Like even 76 has a Battle Pass, so that's how I would parse the two. But yeah,
it reminds me of roguelike and roguelite.
Yeah, it is getting to that point.
You're just like, oh god, here we go. I'm to talk about graphics real quick. I thought so. It looked like shit originally. This MP looked pretty good. The original stuff we saw, was rough. This wasn't like, I didn't look at it and go, wow, that's next gen or anything. But it looked a good deal, many steps above what we saw at the other event. There was good lighting in the sand. The armor, the Japanese Hayabusa armor, that was hilarious. I don't like anything to do with the grapple hooks. Whether I'm sure we're going to have grapple hook or not grapple hook like sides when Halo comes out, where some people are like siding for grapple hook. But I what I saw there looked graphically a good step or 2 above, and that's the multiplayer, which that does make me happy because I think with the multiplayer, usually you do pare down the graphics. So that looked pretty good. So it gives me some excitement for the campaign looking better.
Yeah, I agree. And I was happy with what I saw for Halo Infinite. I just really wanted that date. I hope people understand when I say that. Not
and
only
some single player, right?
Wouldn't
you have liked to have seen some campaign stuff? Some actual...
I feel like, for me, I sit in the weird group where I liked what I saw with the campaign. And when I say that, I mean gameplay-wise, not visually. Visually, it did not look good. Gameplay-wise, presentation-wise, it had a lot of combat-evolved elements, which, to me... spoke very directly to me, as that is my favorite Halo game.
Gotcha.
But I understand.
No, me too. Yeah, I got you.
And I, of course, want to see a little bit more campaign gameplay before they launch it. I want to make that clear. But I'm not hitting the panic button because I understand they had a goal here. Like, let's do a multiplayer deep dive. And then we'll maybe see Forge and then campaign. So And they didn't outright just ignore the campaign. Like, the cinematic trailer sort of set up some questions for us to speculate and discuss more. So I thought they did overall a good job with Halo this E3. I want that date, and it comes from a place of concern, but it also comes from a place of just, I thought it looked really good, and I want to get my hands on it.
I just felt that what it meant was they're not releasing at the same time. And that bothers me because I feel that when I bought...
there's a very strong chance that's staggered.
Well, in the past, you buy it, you get it all, and Master Chief sort of collection burned a lot of people, and they fixed that, which is good. For a lot of people. Mine's still sort of broken. So I think that's probably people's big worry. Not seeing that date makes them go, uh-oh. Like, does that mean multiplayer? And splitting off multiplayer being free to play versus the campaign seems to me that gives you a higher chance also of releasing them separately. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I agree. They also did a little presentation with the 2 images that had different art and everything. And they seemed very clearly separate, where I think that's a good theory, and it's very well possible that they say, like, let's do... Forza Horizon, we'll talk about it later, but like that's in November, man. That's kind of where I thought that Halo was going to be planted. So it's possible that they do one or the other of, hey, we're going to drop this campaign late November, or we're going to drop multiplayer late November, and we'll do this part afterwards. I feel like the campaign first just makes the most sense, but that's just me throwing darts at the wall.
Yeah, that it'll be weird no matter... You'll lose no matter what if you split the days. You should, I would rather have it just all be at once so that the excitement of playing, you play multiplayer,
have it
you
all
get
there.
good, you jump into single player.
Yeah, have it all there. Next one, really excited about this. A Plague Tale Requiem, coming 2022, day one on Game Pass. It is also a game where the first entry, Plague Tale, is on Game Pass. Plague Tale Innocence. Really recommend those of you who are listening, give this one a try. We don't have a Game Pass pick of the week this week, but if you're going to download any game from Game Pass, do Innocence. Plague Tale Innocence. It is a about an 8-10 hour experience, not too long, very well directed, strong, interesting universe. You're not overpowered. You're in a very vulnerable position. You got to use the tools in your environment and really maneuver things in a thoughtful manner. Great game. Try it out. They announced a sequel, though. It's coming 2022. Like I said, day one Game Pass. Carrick, as a big fan of Plague Tale, you excited to see more from Focus Home and Asobo with this one?
No. I'm just joking.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was a believable performance. I was like,
I was just waiting for Maddie to be like, all right, what the hell?
Yeah, I was like, all right, I'm coming over and I'm fucking checking on you, man.
Yeah, exactly. Got to check the pulse. Yeah, no, that was the people were joking saying Carrick has either won the lottery or Plague Tale Innocence 2 was announced, because I smiled. I just don't get that excited, but that time when they showed it, I was like, oh, what? Oh yeah. Yeah, dude, it's I'll just always be a fan of those guys. I just think that Plague Tale, Vampire, those level games are where the juice is for me 99% of the year. The AAAs are great, but throw me up like Plague Tale, and I'll probably end up talking about it glowingly longer than a AAA I love. And I can definitely tell you, other than you and I talking about Spider-Man, I talked about like Plague Tale more than almost any other AAA. They're just that it's that enjoyable. It's that unique. It's that like what the hell. It's that like thought provoking. So yeah, I'm super excited. I hope they don't get lost in it. That was the one thing that it's like, what is it a game where maybe they didn't need a sequel and maybe they do something else? But that's a worry that's like worrying about somebody writing a sequel to a book. It's just that's their choice. They're taking it on.
The trailer displayed more violence than
it did. It was also a little more hodgepodge, like some cuts here and there.
Characters looked older. I think this one's going to be a little bit more violent. That's kind of what I'm expecting here. Not brutal, but I think you're going to be violently engaging with foes compared to
using the rats.
Centuries.
You mean?
Not really just the rats, but like takedowns from like stealth takedowns from behind, stuff like that.
Sure,
like not just like slinging rocks at people and hitting them in the head.
Dude, did you see the rats come out at the starting, man? No.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
it was so weird too, because I was sitting there going like, is this Plague Tale? Because once you see the rats, you're like, what other game? And my brain's like Vermintide, trying to run through the rat games. There's not a lot of rat games. There's like 6, and yeah, it was awesome, man. Then it could be more violent. I don't know. That would sort of suck if it gets too violent, because I think that was Plague Tale Innocence. It's quite literally in the title. And the idea of having these characters who have, at least one's got a weird power and the other one's trying to protect them, the innocence there of family. I hope it doesn't go too violent.
Well, Requiem, for those who don't know, a mass for the dead, a solemn chant for the repose of the dead. So someone's dying. That's for damn sure. If they continue this titling.
Oh, yeah, no, nothing. That would be a spoiler. Yeah. Yeah, very, very cool, man. The first one, such a surprise. Hopefully people played that. I have a feeling we're talking to a group that probably, didn't, but you should.
Yeah, I always strongly recommend it. In fact, I didn't mention this in my review, but I didn't really tip my cap to its art design at all. I was like, okay, it's there. It's kind of dystopian setting here.
Right.
And when the trailer popped, immediately, like without a hesitation, I went Plague Tale. Like I saw it and knew. And I think that's good. I think that's good that you're able to tell. So that was something I kind of learned about the game through the trailer. Was its visual style is unique enough to be identifiable for someone who's played the game before. All right, next one on the list here. I don't have anything to say about this. Slime Rancher 2. It's coming 2022, day one Game Pass. First Slime Rancher is available on Game Pass already. So for those who want to check it out, it seems like a Zen kind of game. Just chill out, ranch some slimes. First person farming thing. I don't know really much about this.
You
one.
ranch some slimes in this game called Slime Rancher?
Yeah,
like, that's
my sophisticated description of Slime Rancher. You ranch slimes.
There's fans, dude, because I would say in my chat that was probably the #1 most reacted to game. I'm not lying. People were freaking.
I don't think it's bad. I haven't played it. I don't know a thing about it. And the trailer
I don't know a thing about it.
Didn't really tell me anything.
It was some goofy sucking up of like juices, and then I looked at my stream, and people were like, "Oh my god, I think it's fucking Slime Rancher," and I was like, "Okay," and they were really excited about it. So that's cool. I mean, it's good. It's like you get excited about that Dragon Quest Builders game. I think that's what happens is you've got these side eclectic games that have these fans that probably don't get their sequel or whatever, and the fact that it's on Game Pass and all that just helped big time.
Yeah, I want to try it at some point. Not high on my priority
me too,
list,
actually.
but I want to give it a look. I've heard some good things because that's how my chat described it. I'm like, what is this game even? And people were going, oh, it's just good chill game, good unwind game.
Just ranch some slimes, man.
Just ranch some slimes, right? Like
that's it.
Oh yeah, it's in the title.
Animal Crossing, cross paths with some other animals. That's it.
Yeah, sadly. Fuck Animal Crossing. Shredder's up next. Wow. I'm just kidding. Shredder's is up next. This is coming December 2021. No official date beyond that, like a specific day. But it's day one on Game Pass snowboarding game. When I saw this, I went, oh, amped. But I quickly remembered that Xbox has announced a snowboarding game before that. Phil Spencer said he was particularly very excited about this one. I guess Phil Spencer's a snowboarder. I had no idea. Does not look like one. In fact, I was going to, but I didn't want to sound like a dick. I was going to crack a joke on my stream going, man, imagine Phil actually snowboarding. That'd be kind of crazy. And it turns out Phil actually is a snowboarder. So that was awesome to see. I am personally terrified of snowboarding, but this game looks interesting. I'm very keen to find out more about this one. Did you share a similar reaction as a fan of? You're like me. You liked Amped. You like SSX, like those arcade.
Dude, and I love
games.
Snowboarding. I was happy about this and Ubisoft showing their fake Steep 2 game, whatever it was called, Rippin' Riders or Riding Rippers or
Riders Republic or something. I didn't even see that.
Yeah, something like that.
Did not even tune in that.
I am dude, Amped is one of my favorite. Speaking of Zen gaming, which most people don't know what we're talking about. I have a video actually recorded and I have to upload it about Zen gaming. But Amped 3, 2, 1 are my, even with like Rob Zombie playing, they were still Zen. There's something about snowboarding. So yeah, and lighting in that game looked phenomenal. Like the one thing I think I noticed in a lot of these games is they're obviously not all ray traced, but they're obviously getting a handle on systems that don't have to sacrifice lighting to do something. So in the old days, you'd get a game that had a lot of polygons, you'd get all this kind of stuff, but you would get like a flat baked light and it would just sort of look yellow. You'd be like, that's daytime because it's yellow. Almost like a filter in a movie. If you've ever seen somebody film in Mexico in a movie, it's always yellow, even though Mexico doesn't look like that. That's considered like a cinema thing. So, yeah to me, it looked, it looked awesome in the fact that I liked Amped. We'll just have to see.
Absolutely. Looking forward to playing it. It definitely, when I first saw it, I think it was ID at Xbox, I went, all right, whatever. Seeing it again, though, I was definitely interested in it. I think it's a good time to release it in December, a nice snowy season.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. It's a perfect seasonal time to release.
Yep. Diablo II Resurrected also showed up as a trailer. It's coming September 23rd, 2021 to Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC. No Game Pass. And I wanted to throw that in there just because it was a moment where I realized how much they were rolling with this is day one Game Pass, this is console launch exclusive. I was like, holy crap, they actually showed something that wasn't coming to Game Pass. But that was there. I don't really have high hype for this game. I love my Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, my Champions of Norath series. I'm old school in that way, but I'm open to this, right? I like Diablo 3. Do you have any memories with Diablo 2 and have some excitement for a remake here?
No, and just so you know, I do have extra time.
You do?
We're talking on the side. Yeah, I just want to make sure you don't have to rush at least right now.
Sure.
So, I think they said 8 people co-op or something on this game. Like it was some high number for Diablo. And I remember laughing. Yeah, unless I read it wrong, I was laughing going, dude, I couldn't even see what was going on with one person. You've got 8 people playing a Diablo and people are gibbing and fucking parts are flying everywhere and spells are going off.
It is. Preserves 8-player multiplayer.
Yeah. So would I play it? I don't know. I did like Diablo on 360. Diablo
3?
What would it have been? 3. Co-op was actually a blast other than being tethered by the screen. But that was a blast. So, yeah, I mean, it still looks old to me, though. I will say that. They were like, here's the old graphics, here's the new graphics. And I was like, yeah, they're newer. They're newish. But it did still look a little...
certainly look old.
Yeah, somebody actually, in the chat, somebody said something like, it takes a lot more money to, rework the entire animation system. And that would, I would agree. They were some creaky, stoved-up looking dudes running around. But, yeah, I might just play that, for a week, like a weekend.
Mm-hmm. Atomic Heart. This game looks really interesting. Kind of first-person Bioshock Singularity-looking title. Open world. A lot of wild things happening. No date, but just confirmed. It's coming to Game Pass. This one has been in development forever, it feels like. And now we know it's coming to Game Pass, so when it does roll around, you can just download it. I would love to expand my thoughts on this, but I was just so hesitant to buy into it because it's been hanging around for what feels like forever, and I don't think that's ever been a very good sign. But I love what I see of it anytime it does pop up. It's got, once again, for those who are interested, it's got vibes from Fallout. It has some looks that will remind you of Bioshock. If you're
Metro.
Yeah, Metro, of course. Yeah, I mean, there is some real clear inspiration there. Kind of like what I felt with Starfield, where you could clearly see Star Wars in that game and all manner of stuff. Like, yeah, when you can see the inspiration, I think that makes the game all the more appealing. But I just don't want to dive too deep because who the hell knows when it's coming. So I don't have much to add for Atomic Heart. Do you?
No, other than I'm assuming the Game Pass was announced in particular to probably showcase that it's a little sooner than we thought. Also, it ran about 800 billion gillion times better than any trailer prior. This is a game that on their YouTube trailers was running at like 5 FPS. It was ridiculous. It was so rough looking in all their trailers. And this time in this trailer, it actually looked normal. So my assumption is possibly day and date on Game Pass. Of course, we do know they get paid for that. That's not free. Mm-hmm. So they will get some money for that. My hope is that it also involved, that money helped them get some optimization, because what I saw in that trailer it wasn't even in the same. Go look at old Atomic Heart trailers. It is ridiculous. Like, I would never have released trailers I can blink faster than that game was running. It was ridiculously slow. And so I'm actually much more excited for this than Stalker, but in a different way, because I know where Stalker's going and what it is. And with Atomic Heart, they showed all kinds of stuff, like him taking parts away from like machines he was holding. Like, there was some weird shit going on. It almost looked a little like Condemned, which is an old horror game from the Xbox 360, just because of like there were some mannequins and robot parts, and there's that dystopian feel and like anti-humanism. That to me just looked awesome. And again, 2 games in that. Microsoft doubled up, which is quite intelligent, and I don't know if most people realized that would normally be a complaint. Most people who saw trailers at an E3 would say, why did a company show 2 of this? Microsoft showed 2 of a shit ton of stuff, if not 3 and 4 when we come to Cyberpunk.
They did it with the Outer Worlds and Starfield, man.
Yeah, right. There's something.
Why would you?
Right.
I think anyone with a brain would go, why would you announce Starfield? Show how soon it's coming. It's this clear sci-fi exploration game, and then announce the sequel to a sci-fi exploration RPG,
I think what they are trying to do, I didn't expect a knockout punch like a lot of people. I heard you say it, and I definitely heard it in Lords they were talking about. The reason why I don't think I did is because I actually think the knockout punch, in a way, is this subtle way of saying, if you don't like this, there's this. If you don't like this and this, there's definitely this. And there's this sense. Weird thing going on with how Microsoft is doing stuff, that instead of saying we have Spider-Man, because they don't have Spider-Man. They don't have Spider-Man. It doesn't exist.
They got Jack Sparrow.
And they've got Jack Sparrow. But they do have multiple Cyberpunk games where you'd be like, well, I'm not really into the 2D one. Well, guess what? There's a fucking 3D shooter. And I just saw the tweet. I don't know if you saw it, but the End of the Night game we've talked about multiple times, which wasn't shown, was actually tweeted last night, and they've updated the graphics, and it just looks...
Oh, they have a release date.
I didn't see a release date. I didn't look for a release date. I just got the tweet to me. But anyway, Atomic Heart, a second game, Metro Exodus, came out on Game Pass, I believe, or some of the Metro games on Game Pass. There's just something about Microsoft's handling of multiple games in the same genre that I actually think is more intelligent than, or even I've noticed it, and I noticed a lot of people weren't bringing it up, but it seems to be their plan, and I like it. I actually think it makes sense.
Yeah, this game looks so good. Sorry, just you bringing the Last Night back into
the
my
night
life.
or the Last Night. I always mess it up because there's night in every game, but you know what I mean. You know the game. What's it called?
Last Night. The Last Night.
The Last Night. Yeah.
It's just, oh man, so cool. Anyway, speaking of games, kind of like the Last Night. That's funny. Replaced. This is a beautiful pixel art 2D side scroller. You look at it, you think of Last Night. This is coming 2022, day one Game Pass. At first, it just kind of looked like a moody
it got progressively better.
And then, suddenly you see the combat start up and how clean the animation work was. And
he
how
grabs that dude and whips him around, just like does something, shoots him, I think.
It just looked like there was more happening there. You could see how gameplay could potentially work, and it looks fantastic. Definitely need to see more about this one. This is definitely going to be... This is one of those games that I think adds a lot to Xbox because they just don't have these types of games. But you see the interest in it. What you're seeing is them sort of... They don't just pick something up and drop it, right? So you don't just get something like... not Shovel Knight, but what was the other cyborg ninja game that came out day one on Game Pass this year? Side-scroller. It was like a shinobi game. I'm forgetting the name of it. It was published by Yacht Club Games. I love how I remember everything but the game name. I'll look up in a second. But you don't get that 2D side-scroller and then just drop it. Like, they get the next one, right? You get replaced. And I like how they have this continuation, right? You don't just get Starfield. You get the Outer Worlds, too. So you know if you like this one thing, that something else coming out later on may still appeal to you in the system. You have the Ascent, which can also tie into Diablo, right? Like, there's... While that's not Game Pass still, there's that continuation there. They're doing a really good job with the portfolio. And Replace, just, I cannot emphasize enough. If you were not paying attention during that part of the showcase, please give it a look. So good. Grounded got an update called the Shroom and Doom. They added achievements, so you can hop in there and start hunting for those. I don't know if they retroactively activate, so by that I mean, like, if you've played the game like I have for a number of hours and you dive in now, if those achievements will pop. Broodmother Spider has been added. They said this was not something no one was asking for, but they put a new spider in anyway. Showcase the Arachnophobia mode, which can tune that down, so if you have a fear of spiders, don't worry, which I thought was kind of cool for Obsidian to do. That's been there since launch. You can create castles now. You can befriend pets, and they even added sitting down, which they showcased a chat suggesting please add sitting down. So they've added that, and I love the marketing that Obsidian's been doing between that and the Outer Worlds too. They've just seemed very in tune with their audience and very much understand what people expect and how to make things that come off pretty poorly from other developers. Like, most developers would take this Shroom and Doom update and be like, we're so excited to put agency in the player's hand. The Grounded is your backyard playground, right? Like, this possessive sort of marketing technique that so many companies are obsessed with. And Obsidian's just like, with the Outer Worlds too, it's coming. Let's make fun of every other game trailer that's happened. We're self-aware. Like, this isn't coming for a while. We just letting you know what's happening. Shroom and Doom, it's like, this is goofy. Yeah, we're adding sitting down and achievements. Big whoop. And they know that. And so they market it accordingly. So I really appreciated this. Has Grounded grabbed your interest enough to dive in yet? No?
I did dive in. I had forgotten I dived in. It was so not for me. So I what I saw was a thing that was like Sea of Thieves a little bit. And there wasn't enough there to hold me at all. So, you know, I might come to it at a later time.
Yeah, I liked it, but I dropped it pretty quickly because there just wasn't enough there. And I just said I'm going to wait for the full release because it is for what it released as an early access. I thought it was good. but it was just
I didn't get
one of
any
those
crashes or anything.
exactly for early access. It was pretty competent. Something that earned it its attention, where I think you saw Valheim sort of enjoy a similar success with its release. I don't know if that was early access or not, though, so I shouldn't quite use that as an example. But I digress. Grounded looking great, getting another big update. Looking forward to the final release of that game. Next up, this was one of my games of the show. Eiyuden Chronicle, 100 Heroes and Eiyuden Chronicle Rising. So Rising, less so.
All right, so I'm going to go grab a pop. You talk about these games I couldn't understand a goddamn thing about. These are the ones that look like Octopath, right?
Yes.
Okay, let me go grab a pop. You talk about them. Wow. I'll come back, and then, I was like, dude, and a lot of people like these, but I just was so confused. Right. But I thought it was Octopath Traveler, so I went down a completely different. So let me go grab some. I'll be right back.
This is why I'm on the show, right? I will handle
exactly.
this. Got it covered, right? So Eiyuden Chronicle Rising is this 2D side scroller they showed like a little hint for, and what was interesting is the dates were reversed. So Eiyuden Chronicle Rising is coming 2022. 100 Heroes is coming 2023. This is from a lot of the team that brought us Suikoden. Suikoden 2 in particular is very widely regarded as this JRPG with so many party members and so many deep stories. It's very well written. It's expertly done. I believe there's lots of endings for the game based on who's with you. It is just a JRPG dream game. And now what's happening is that same team is doing a modern style game for Suikoden where it's this beautiful 2D pixel art in 3D spaces. And what's cool is where Octopath Traveler is in a 3D space, there's depth to the environment. You can see like pillars in the background and stuff. It's laid out in a 2D perspective, whereas the camera in Eiyuden Chronicle is much more active, moving around. So it's pulling up to a cliff top where your archer's shooting down on an enemy. It looks fantastic. This is a JRPG as well, something that Xbox didn't address as deeply as I thought they would, but between Yakuza Like a Dragon and Eiyuden Chronicle, I think this was a pretty good get for them on the portfolio side of things, as Carrick slips on his second pair of
I'm trying to see if that's possible. So this game, game. Just two?
Plural. There was a side scroller, and then there was the JRPG, which is the bigger get.
Why?
Both day one Game Pass, by the way.
Are these from teams that we know? Is this from the Octopath people?
It looks visually like it is, but it's
right.
It's by the people who do the Suikoden games, which were like a Konami JRPG franchise.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
I pronounced it Suikoden. Okay, how do you pronounce it?
I'm Suikoden.
Oh, okay. I know those games. I actually know those games.
Yeah.
So this is made by them.
Yes, kickstarted, I should add. So, I know some people are a little wary on kickstarting games, but I think them getting a Game Pass deal early means they're securing budget in the right areas. Yeah. And so this is coming day one Game Pass for both of them. And 100 Heroes is the one I think to watch. I'm not saying Rising will be bad, but 100 Heroes is why there are people like myself who are excited.
Which one is that?
I will. That's the it was the first part they showed where you saw the character portraits and you saw them running around in that Octopath style.
Okay, yeah,
that's
the one that
turn-based
got me more.
Yeah. Rising was at the end. You see like the guy hit the ground with the sword. It's a 2D side scroller. I'm like, what is this? And funny enough, that was not the game that was originally marketed. It's coming first, so I imagine that'll be small. And they're probably doing something kind of like what Bloodstained did, where Bloodstained did I think Ritual of the Moon and Ritual of the Night or something along those lines.
It was split up.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that's what's happening here. I haven't paid attention to the Kickstarter goals. But yeah, this is, I think, a really smart get for them, nice and early. Non-exclusive, by the way. I want to emphasize that. Non-exclusive, but day one Game Pass, pretty smart. And I think JRPGs are perfect for Game Pass because they struggle for that broad appeal, or with that broad appeal. And just that overall exposure can get more people through the door and buying them. And so I just think down the line, you're going to see more JRPGs. I think it makes too much sense, but that might be some of my own bias, I'll admit. After this was the Ascent, which reaffirmed what we already knew. It's arriving July 29th, 2021, day one Game Pass. This game looks fantastic. Cannot wait for it. For those unfamiliar, we've talked about it a lot, but twin stick shooter action RPG. It's got verticality. It's very cyberpunky. which can really hit at the right time for people because the Ascent is coming after Cyberpunk 2077, which didn't light everyone's fire. So this could be exactly what people are looking for. The previews were strong for this game, which was encouraging at the very least. And so, yeah, that's coming very shortly, and we'll be talking about it on the show when it comes around. After that, a big fall title for Xbox, really showcasing the diversity of their portfolio. Age of Empires 4 comes out October 28th, 2021. Another day one Game Pass game. I've never played Age of Empires, so I think you have, but I personally don't have much to say on this one just because I'm not really relatively informed on it.
Yeah, they used to be like my premier style of game, I would say. Like RTS like that. They used to be like the shit.
Is it like Civilization at all? I'm just trying to kind of get a beat
No,
on
it's real time. So you're like Zergan. You're getting everybody together and going to do battle versus,
cool.
the turn-based where you can wait. I mean, people do wait. You end up building, various different ways in which you can stop enemies from getting in, watchtowers and all that kind of stuff. And then they depending on the time for 4, because I don't know how 4 is going to cover, how far it goes in the future or in the past, when it starts exactly, because I haven't really followed that yet.
Mm-hmm.
They were always just the best of those games. I don't know how to describe it. There's some games that they feel like, it's like WoW comes out and 10 games try to be WoW, but WoW feels the best out of all of them. And so WoW's the one that stuck around. That's how Age of Empires felt. And there was by the way, there's Empire Earth was another one, a different series of games that was fantastic, but it didn't hold on. Age of Empires has just stood the test of time. I don't know if it was that. I will say it looked really unimpressive graphically in this trailer. Like, I wouldn't say bad, but I think we're so accustomed now to global illumination and really detailed multi-levels of lighting that it sort of looked flat and old. And I remember when I saw them building like city or little houses and stuff, I was like, that's going to be weird to see, like, if people, I don't know if that's a performance thing or if that's the choice that they've made, but I mean, I'll play it because I am an Age of Empires fan, but.
Okay. So there is like city building and stuff involved.
Yeah.
In your expansion.
And then it goes up in your epochs, like you build enough things, and then once you have built enough things, like it'll track stuff, get enough resources, you go up your next epoch, and your crossbowman turns into like a longbowman or whatever, that kind of stuff.
Okay,
yeah.
This sounds great then. I'm gonna give it a shot. That sounds really good.
Just be aware it is real time, so it's like your battles sometimes can devolve into like elephants smashing into horses, smashing into because it doesn't look. There's no cultivation of its graphics because Civilization, if you want, you can do camera tricks to make it look cinematic and cool, even though they don't do too much. In this game, it's never like that. It's just when shit hits the fan, it's all in that one space, of everybody just like, and you hear them in the background. It's enjoyable chaos.
My other question is, let me just double check. This is coming out on consoles as well, or no? This is coming out on PC.
It's on PC first, but I believe somebody can correct me. I thought Microsoft stated that the Age of Empires games were coming to console soon, and the reason why I believe that is because I believe it was around the time they started showing more keyboard and mouse support on the Xbox. I could be wrong, but I'm almost sure Series S and X is getting it. Mm-hmm. We'll have to.
As it stands, the official website only lists the PC. This is Xbox.com. So this might be a.
I just feel like they said something.
Yeah, I apologize to the audience. If this is knowledge, but right now I see Windows Central with a article from April saying that it isn't coming to consoles for now.
Oh, gotcha.
So stay tuned for now. So consoles aren't ruled out entirely. So this is a PC only game for the time being. Keep that in mind. So we
well
do now
worth
know
getting
that.
it if you have a PC. I mean, it is good.
Awesome. That makes me excited. After this was the Outer Worlds 2. I already kind of shot my load on this one, talking about how ridiculous I found the trailer. It's happening. That's really it. We don't have a date. They really didn't even mention Game Pass, but it's exclusive. That much is obvious. This makes sense. We reported earlier on their show a couple episodes ago that Microsoft had secured the publishing rights to the Outer Worlds from Private Division. Private Division themselves, they confirmed that. And then myself and Jez Corden, I saw, were both saying we had heard there's a 50-50 chance that the Outer Worlds 2 shows up and just confirms like it's happening, which it did end up doing. So was really happy to see this, especially with the budget that this game will have. I'm very encouraged because I thought they did a good job with a tight budget. Some people were underwhelmed by that, which I respect and understand. I know it was missing some things. Like I thought combat was pretty weak in the first game. But as you and I have both sung the praises of the DLC, specifically Murder on Eridanos, less so Peril on Gorgon, are you excited for the next chapter of the Outer Worlds 2? Even, I mean, excited's probably a dumb word to use. Are you interested in the next chapter with it being so far away?
Oh, yeah, that is true. It is going to be a long ways away, right? Yeah, but I wish it wasn't spoiled because I got a DM a long time ago where somebody was like, we just got word that they've greenlit blah, blah, blah. And I was like, and I didn't want to believe it because they hadn't even, when that was rumored, that was prior to release of the Murder. I got that DM prior to the release of Murder, even coming out. And so I was like, it doesn't make any sense. And then I talked to somebody who was like, well, Murder is a different team than the main team, which makes sense, right? Murder's a smaller team, different writer.
Right.
But then I think it was us or somebody was telling me that one of the writers for Murder is the main writer, or rumored to be the main writer of this one. So it's all sort of confusing, and that also indicates to me it's even farther out, which sort of sucks. So I guess I'm in that point where now somebody announced something that I was really excited to be announced, but it was announced so early that it's sort of in that, long wait period. It feels like it's going to be a long time.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. It's kind of got the Elder Scrolls 6 effect without being Elder Scrolls 6. Yeah.
And they only showed, I love the joke. They're in jokes. And also, unfortunately, Justin left last week. He left. Which
composer, right?
Yeah, which might have been my favorite part of it. I mean, I liked Outer Worlds. I thought it was great. But he was my favorite part of Outer Worlds. Like his attitude, the music. So it'll be interesting to see where that is. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm thinking a ways away because I also don't believe it'll be small. Well, okay, so I don't think Outer Worlds was small. I think Outer Worlds was actually where a lot of games like a Greedfall is. It was bigger than Greedfall, but you get my drift. It wasn't small. It's just it wasn't Skyrim. Right?
Yeah, I thought that was sort of the charm of it. I feel like
I don't think it was the charm.
More.
I think that was their plan. Well, I mean, okay, that can be the charm, but what I mean is that's exactly where they were aiming, and it still was a super long game. If you wanted to do everything, it had
30 hours.
It was 30 hours. Well, or longer if you did the difficulty, I guess.
True.
You cranked it up. But I have a feel, dude. I just have this sickening feeling we're not talking like 2023. And I honestly
no. I think 2023.
I'm thinking like
about.
2020. Yeah, I think like more like 2024, 2025. Like it feels to me that they won't go small, and that
I think 25. I think it's that far.
I would hope not, because this one did turn around quick. Maybe they don't go big, and they think maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Do you think it'll be the same guy, or gal? Do you think it'll be the same character?
Oh, like the same main player character, that Hawthorne, like you take Hawthorne's spot. And
you take Hawthorne's spot. Do you think it'll be something along those lines? Because, I mean, what if they took the save game? That could be good.
That would be awesome. You know what? Hold on. They posted, the only detail we got on this, I should have included this initially in my write-up. Hold on. New star system, new crew, same Outer Worlds is what the tagline for this trailer was.
Oh,
so
new star system, new crew, new star system.
Yeah,
did
so
they
it's likely not going to be
stars?
Halcyon and all of that because you've sort of handled that. They're saying new crew, so I'm imagining it's not the player character, but looking at the end of the trailer, I can see the thing is I can't take the trailer seriously. I don't know if because they show the same kind of.
Oh no, they're dicking around because exactly. That's why I asked, because it's the same guy.
Shot
or
of a world
feels
you'll
like
probably never explore. I'm just like,
yeah. Okay, well maybe, yeah. I don't know.
And some lens flare.
I'm excited for it, but now I've got that burn that a lot of other people get, which is why I'm just gonna.
I'm used to it with the Elder Scrolls, man.
I'm not. I don't like it. So I'm just going to stove it and be like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling I might be dead. Dude, that's fucking 3-4 years from now. Who
I'm worried
knows?
about that with Elder. I want to play Elder Scrolls 6. Then I can go. Then I can go die. But like, honestly, like,
Are you going to be one of those Make-A-Wish kind of horror stories where the person gets to see Return of the Jedi early or whatever? Like, I hope not. That's what I'm worried about, though, man. These are so far away.
Yeah, I know. It's almost ignorance is bliss, right? I'd rather just not know.
Yeah.
I'd rather not know.
Yeah, when they announced it, I was like, oh, it's true. Uh-oh.
Yeah, right when I heard the voice, it was you knew it was the forgetting his name, but the main guy who was like the scientist in the facility.
The doctor. I just call him the doctor.
The doc. So yeah, hopefully The Outer Worlds 2 comes out sooner rather than later. But we also know Obsidian's working on a ton of other projects internally, like smaller projects. Like Josh Sawyer has one, Carrie Patel has one. And it's like, that's on top of everything else. So I always tell people, I'm like, don't expect Obsidian, because Josh Sawyer already said he's not doing a Fallout game. I feel like he would probably be the best equipped for it. But that's just my personal opinion. But don't expect Obsidian to be making a Fallout game. And if they do, by the way, I'd love for this prediction to be wrong, but I don't think if they're working on a Fallout game, it's going to be small scale.
What, so you think Fallout's like 2028? I mean, are you saying like don't even think of a Fallout game for a long
No, I'm just talking specifically from Obsidian. I don't think I think our idea, maybe not of a whole new studio, I think our idea of like these main
some
minds
kind of
from
team
Fallout
up
across all studios, yeah, I think they will serve as like kind of like Todd Howard's an executive producer at Bethesda Game Studios for a Machine Games Indiana Jones game.
Exactly.
I think you're going to see that sort of overlap between all these minds. I truly believe that, but I don't know if it'll be probably a currently established studio. We'll of course see in due time, but I just, with Obsidian specifically in Fallout, I respect what they're doing. Keep going with the Outer Worlds. I'd be more upset if, honestly, as much as I love Fallout, I'd be upset if they just dropped the Outer Worlds. I really would be.
I mean, and yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Especially the Outer Worlds reminded me so much of Fallout. Not remind me of Fallout, but its style of gameplay and delivery of choices, it really was reminiscent of Fallout.
It was futuristic. Come on. It felt like it was the same world. I felt like
it was very
Fallout was like, well, no, what I mean is I felt like Fallout could have been like pre this game world, and that somehow we still scrapped up after Fallout to finally go to the stars. That's how close they felt. I mean, there was a lot of stuff. Even the weapons, though they were futuristic, still had that feel. I mean, they definitely share a DNA.
After the Outer Worlds 2, we had Microsoft Flight Simulator coming to next-gen consoles July 27th. There was a Top Gun expansion.
And by the way, you do know that the Top Gun expansion was why your insiders were all confused, right? Did you know that?
No, what do you mean? Sorry. I didn't pay
all the
attention to
insiders,
with Flight
all
Simulator.
the insiders who were pretending Tom Cruise was going to be in Starfield, there was a lot of people running this. Oh, there's going to be. It was confusion. People had seen the early cuts, and they thought that Tom Cruise was in Starfield, but it's just the music and everything from the flight sim.
Interesting.
Because there was a lot of people saying, "Oh, Tom Cruise is in Starfield." Blah blah blah.
I get why, like, with there's smoke, there's fire, in the terms of, hey, Bethesda tweeted it, and then, hey, we're seeing this. I didn't even hear anything. I was like, Tom Cruise is such a big name. Like, I would rather Bethesda just take that money and spend it somewhere else. We don't need a celebrity.
Well, and they did even in Microsoft Flight Sim. They did. It's the music, it's the airplanes, but it's not Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
and so I can see why most likely the insider is somebody who does. We've talked to those people before. They cut trailers months ahead of time for some stuff. Most likely, some stuff got crossed, some wires got crossed. But personally, I think it was awesome. You hear that music, the da 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 da. I'm a big Top Gun fan, so
this is good news for you, it seems.
Oh, dude, I mean that's running on a fucking console. Like, they were like, this is all directly from the console. Like, that's insane graphics.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Oh, and by the way, whenever anybody says, like, oh, yeah, this game's got graphics, blah, 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 I'm like, dude, that was Flight Sim run on the console, so fuck off. Or Forza. Those are both good examples.
Well, that's what's up next. I personally don't have much to interject when it comes to Flight Sim. That's just...
You're not a fan, right?
I just don't have interest in that. Like, I have more interest in the goofy simulators. Like, what was there? There's like, I think like drug dealer simulator, thief simulator. I'm like, these look interesting.
Two of the best simulation games out there are those two. I have over 85 hours in Thief and about 112 in Drug Dealer Simulator. Dude, they're awesome.
I love
they're
it.
not
It
just
sounds
like,
interesting.
And they're not, what do you call it? Cash-ins. They're not like, they're actual full-on. Like the Drug Dealer one has you pretending to be like not selling drugs and running from they are full on. The Thief Simulator has VR now. You can, and you actually go to like black market websites. They're insane.
Yeah, see, I think there's like a novel concept with Flight Simulator. By the way, I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm just saying for me, like to me, what I would do is I would load this up. I would fly to my house and be like, huh, wow, it's there.
Yeah, right.
Okay, and then that's it. And I would call it a day.
No, I get you. It makes total sense. Sorry, I'm just fixing something.
Honestly, that's probably what I'll do is when it comes to consoles, I'll literally fly to my house and then I'll just call it a day. Delete it off my hard drive. Like I said, though, after this is Forza Horizon 5. This got a huge amount of attention, about 10 minutes worth of time at the showcase. It was the longest showcase of anything else there. It arrives on the Xbox family of consoles and PC November 9th, 2021. Looks gorgeous, impressive visuals. It's set in Mexico. They show off an event lab, so there's kind of like these mini games that you can partake in. Of course, you saw the beautiful vistas and the cooperative driving and racing that you can do in this game. I was a little bit flustered by this, and I don't want to sound, because I know at the beginning of the show you were like, why did some people say like, well, why show this much of this but not this much of that? But I can't help but look at a situation like Starfield where there was clearly a undershowing, and I think Horizon 5, there was an overshowing. The reason I just say that is not because of disinterest. I've openly said before, well, I'm not a racing fan. Horizon 3 is what kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, because I was Mr. Burnout, right? Like, when I say Burnout, I mean like the actual racing franchise. Like, I love that arcadey kind of feeling. So Horizon pulling me in that's huge, right? That's a pretty big deal. But I feel like you can get Horizon and understand what it is. Where I was looking at other games, I'm like, you could have seen a little more here or here. Like Starfield's probably my best example where there was more to show. We saw as much, and it was all separate. I found that strange, but I don't want that to take away from the overall conversation. I just feel like they definitely overshowed this. But I noticed a lot of the audience in my comments and on stream were very into this, so I get I'm probably the odd man out on this one. It does look fantastic, though. Another game added to the holiday period for Xbox. What do you make of everything you saw of Forza Horizon 5, a long-rumored game finally confirmed?
Yeah, I mean, I think they probably overshowed it just because of the graphics. Ratchet coming out.
Show how
show
the
two
system...
huge, show two massively graphic games, because while I do like Ratchet, and it's amazing, there are concessions that are taken with that game. There absolutely are. And it's funny, I was talking to the lawyer, the video game lawyer, Richard Ho?
Yeah, Rick Hogue, yeah.
Yeah, and I was asking people what games they liked, blah, 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 and I could tell he had watched the review, because he was like, dude, the riffs, they're just sort of there. They're not what I thought. And it's like, yeah, because it takes a while, to learn the tech, and then there's only so much you can do. And I think what happens is Microsoft doesn't have that. They don't have a platformer like that. So one of the things they did was their two biggest graphic games were last. Or not last, but close to last. And they're just like, Microsoft Flight Sim, if you know what flight sims are like, it's unbelievable that's on a console. Just for every technical reason. And then you get Forza, which they show... They actually did a full, which I thought was awesome. They slowly pan down, and they talk about photogrammetry. Photogrammetry is where you take a picture of something and you put it in your game as a item. This Vanishing Ethan Carter, 7 years old, still looks incredible because of this tech. And I love how they zoom down, and everybody thought that was them at the location. And then you see cars fly by, and people are like, what the it looks that good? And there's two reasons why this excites me. One, the game looks phenomenal. There was no pop-in. It was insane.
Yeah, it did look very good on a visual level.
And I think that lets them say, hey, we can do something that's maybe not to the weird fidelity of GT or Gran Turismo, but is our own thing. But then secondarily, anybody who knows what's going on also knows that's the Fable engine. So I think a lot of people see that and go, oh, that's why they were talking about you can see up close. Because they were talking about this up close stuff, and you're like, but I'm driving by at 80 miles an hour. Why would I care? And I don't think they were trying to signal anybody, but I do think that it's like, it's a good showcase. It's an indicator that their thought process is not just, I mean, dude, that graphic, come on. You and I played 3, which is the one with the snow in it. Was that the expansion?
Yeah, that was the expansion.
Okay. So you got snow in it in 3 or 4. I can't remember which numbered version expansion that was for. And I remember talking on the podcast and being like, what if an RPG, I mean, dude, the graphics are better than like any RPG when it comes to like their trees and stuff. I know there's other systems to be drawn, but like, what if that becomes an RPG? And that's what we will probably get, something like that with Fable, which is really exciting. Because, dude,
absolutely,
that game, and they went away with seasons, which is great. I know why people liked seasons, but it for all intents and purposes, what it looks like is this will be about elevation. Higher elevations are snow, you know, and then you'll be like snow, whatever, water, arid. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it looks like they're going to go away from the seasons and go more towards locational weather, which I think is great. They also showed a snowstorm, which, by the way, I wasn't a fan of. I'll just say. Snowstorm seems a little Mission Impossible. Let's throw some Mission Impossible into our racing game. But I don't know. It just seemed a little over the top, but we'll see.
Right on. Yeah, I don't have as much in-depth thoughts as a guy who's not really a car junkie. I just, when it comes to Horizon 5, I'm interested. I'll see if I'll make time for it this fall. Not high on the priority list for me, personally. And like I said, I felt it sort of was the pin in the balloon for the showcase. For me. Once again, for me. And then it wraps up. So Phil Spencer's on stage. He's recounting everything that we saw throughout the showcase and what's coming this year, what's coming next year, their commitments, all that stuff. And he says, we got one more thing to show. In sort of a plot twist moment for a lot of the Bethesda community, Redfall is revealed. And Redfall was a trademark discovered many years ago. And everyone assumed this is got to be Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone thought that. I didn't think it was so certain, and this is coming from me, man. Like I've said it before, this is coming from me. But like when you saw Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion, of course, being an exception, Arena as well being an exception, and then Skyrim, like most of the games were named per region in the official series. So I didn't think Redfall was such a guarantee. But it turns out it is a game by Arcane, Arcane Austin specifically, the team that made us Prey. It's coming summer 2022. It's open world co-op. It has vampires. And I really wasn't sold on this vision quite yet. I feel like Arcane games, like Deathloop, I was immediately on board with. I saw it and went, yes, because I saw it. This was one of those situations where I went, okay, I didn't even know it was open world till they told me. I don't know if it was before or after, but I couldn't get, outside of vampires and abilities and teamwork, couldn't really gather what the game was about. But Arcane is one of my favorite developers beneath the Bethesda brand. So for me personally, there is excitement there in general. I trust them. They really haven't let me down. Honestly, since I've started tracking them with the first Dishonored, they have just continued to be excellent. So I feel like this has the potential to be another wonderful game. The difference is, Carrick, open world. We love hub-based games here on this show. This is open world. Arcane, typically known for finely crafted hub areas that are very open and explorable and interactable. Do you think this really changes the dynamic of what an Arcane game will play and feel like, especially with also online nature with co-op involved?
Yeah, might, but I mean, since we saw so little, who knows? Right? And keep your fucking CGI to yourself, man. Like that,
I thought it was kind of a weak ending.
It was weak. It was weak. Yeah, it was weak to surprise. I mean, and I don't mean weak as in against the developers or anybody. I just mean weak as in hitting. Especially when you come off the amazing graphic games and they're trying to like, and then they show that, which it was so weird to come off of that and be all, I don't even know if I like the character design because it was all CGI. So I need to see that. You could definitely tell there were the weird caricatures that you get in Dishonored. They were there. You could see it in their face structure. That was for sure. I love the idea of the vampires. And by the way, though, easily one of the best cut trailers I've ever seen in my life. The the fucking backwards timed trailer, that was genius. When they were like,
that was really well designed.
when they would say what the F, and then it'd be like, here's back when what the F happened or whatever, and it just kept. I was like, that's the way to make me pay attention. Unfortunately, it was just I kept waiting for gameplay, and it was just CGI, 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 CGI. And the bad guy was like bad guy vampire design number 77, which in CGI it doesn't pay off. I need to see that. Is he going to be menacing in the game? Not in the CGI.
What will he do to you in the game, and how
what
will
will
your
he
powers
do?
react to that enemy?
Because they even showed some cool parts, like with him flying in or him standing over the hill. If I had seen that in game, like they had panned up, somebody's got the gun, they see the full moon, and you see this guy on the hill looking over, then I would have been like, whoa, and he has multiple arms, which, by the way, creepy. He's got baby arms under. I don't know where that design come from. That was actually wrong. That was nasty. But like, I don't know, but he like opens his hands, and then these other like arms are like boop, 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 just like
right.
But that all that could have some gameplay needed to be in there, because I just don't like CGI, man. I hate it. I'm so now anti CGI, it's ridiculous.
I get that. Yeah, with CGI, like,
sorry, I'm fucking with my armrest, just so people don't think I'm like on crank. It's broken. I'm trying to hold it together while we're doing this.
With CGI, there are certain instances, like with Starfield, I feel like it worked. Obviously, I should throw in there's some personal bias. Like, I have no problem admitting that. But with Starfield, I think because we had a date and we knew it was further out, and there was an expectation, at least for me internally, of not seeing gameplay. But this one technically being closer, and they're like, it's coming summer, and it was a show capper. If this was a mid-show thing, I think it would have made more sense to put it there. So for me, I felt like this was their show ender because it was more of a statement. Like I touched on earlier, we haven't seen an established franchise and how that will be handled by Xbox, but I think it was a statement saying Bethesda is exclusive to Xbox. Like, there is not a question mark here. It is exclusive. Once again, there is room, I think, for conversation on what will happen with Wolfenstein or Doom. I think they'll be exclusive, but I think it was to try to eliminate the speculation, like, we bought Bethesda to make exclusive games. You are getting Starfield exclusive, and you are getting Omen, or I almost called it Omen. That was the code name for it. Redfall exclusive. And so that is as an Xbox show, and for Xbox fans, that is very exciting. So we will see how all of that pans out. But I think it was more of a statement rather than like this is our big showing. Do you see what I mean? Because that's sort of the feeling I got after.
For what? For Redfall?
For just generally Bethesda and Xbox coming together. I feel like the statement was like, Bethesda is exclusive. I think that point was clear with Starfield, but it's even more clear now with Arcane doing Redfall.
Might be, but I don't care. I don't like CGI. I mean,
I'm right there with you, man.
I get your reasoning. I wish they'd. I don't know how to describe it. I wish they'd shown something, because I can't sit here and bitch when Nintendo or Sony do it, not bitch when Microsoft does it, because people be like, "Oh, it just loves Microsoft," which people probably figuring out. I have issues with all the companies. I just, I wanted to. I don't know what to. I get that reasoning. I just don't know how you go about it in a different way, but I wish there was, because that being the stinger, as they call it, at the end, I just don't, I would have rather had, how about this? Put that not as the stinger, and put Outer Worlds as a stinger. I would have had no issue. I mean, I would have had an issue with the CGI, but wouldn't have an issue with Phil, because you could tell he was leading up. Prior to him actually announcing it, I was in Twitter going, he's leading up to something. Like, he's just like, and we love everybody, and everybody gives each other hugs, and I love Obsidian, and you're all, why is Phil talking? That's not, and Phil looked relaxed, and I think that's one positive of Bethesda being there. That Phil can now be like, dude, other people, not at his level, but they're at his level, but there's these massive corporations that are all looking at trying to get people to enjoy their games, where he knows they're as invested as he is, and he can finally go, oh my God, finally. Like, he actually looked not rested. I don't know how to describe Phil at the end, but he looked like just less business. And he's never looked super business, but he just looked comfortable. And I think that's probably what I got out from what I got from it.
Absolutely. Overall, it was a good showcase, though. They had a lot of good stuff, and so it laid out a pretty strong roadmap for Xbox when it comes to, I think, 2022 more so. But 2021 is still it's gonna be busy for them, and we'll be documenting all of these Game Pass releases. We'll be talking about the Xbox exclusives as the show goes on. But there's a lot to look forward to, which is something that Xbox fans have been looking forward to for. I shouldn't say there's a lot to look forward to that they're looking forward to, but there's a lot less of I wonder what's going to happen and more just we know what's happening. And that's something that PlayStation, as I listen to Sacred Symbols, has struggled with, where beyond Ratchet, what was next? And I always say this, that with one showcase, they can literally flip that script and go, here's what's coming, right? Like, we know Deathloop is coming.
Not everything is announced here for Sony or Microsoft. Microsoft has at least 2 other big things that they're going to announce. So we know that. And I don't know when those are happening, but we know that there's big stuff, and we know Sony's got big stuff. E3 is not the end-all be-all anymore.
It's not. And Microsoft literally could team up with QuakeCon in August and do something, right?
Exactly. And do something. Yeah.
They will,
and they never, did you notice, Maddie, they never mentioned, other than you mentioning cloud and stuff, we know just prior that Microsoft made a huge deal about TVs, about a mobile, we know, I call it, the Series M, but whatever you're going to call it. There is the plan to have like a little, dongle, and Phil was open and stated, we are doing that in the blog.
Yep.
Those are things they could have also covered, and they didn't. Orion with id's Orion Tech, which was their streaming tech. Where did that go? Is that going to be in anything? Is that going to be is that helping them with cloud? There's a lot of tech stuff too that Microsoft has.
Absolutely. So we'll continue to talk about all of this. We will have our normal show on Wednesday, really going into the news and everything that has occurred that's supplemental to this and not just announcement-based, but more so stories that we can discuss. So it'll probably be a longer episode. So we look forward to seeing you then. But other than that, thank you so much for joining us for our E3 special. It was a great time. Thank you to everyone who tuned in to mine or Carrick's stream. And supported us through whatever avenue you discovered us in. We're very appreciative of that.
Yeah.
And we're really looking forward to seeing what everyone has to say about this year's E3. Carrick, any closing thoughts before we go?
No question. Is Sony hasn't done E3 since 2018, but have they stated, and it is Nintendo. Nintendo's doing a direct, right? Didn't that
Nintendo's tomorrow as we record this, yeah.
Okay, so Nintendo's tomorrow as we record this, which would be Tuesday, because we're on Monday. Yeah. And then, do we know anything about Sony? Are they doing anything?
As of now, no. They did their state of play with Horizon, and then just out they went. I think they'll do one within the next month or so. You'd have to imagine they have some more to show or talk about.
And, by the way, everybody, other companies, Devolver Digital did a bunch of shit. There's also other stuff that we can definitely talk about. It's going to be a cool year for games, man. Even if you ignore everything from the main guys. Just be happy, man. There's a lot of cool games coming.
I agree. So we hope you enjoyed. If you got this deep, I'm going to suggest the hashtag. I'm thinking like just E3, Xbox E3. Let us know you got this deep into the show. Leave it in the comments. Tweet it out.
What about DDE3?
DDE3. Carrick, see, this is why you're the businessman.
You know what I mean? Because we got to rub some of ourselves up in this.
Yeah, right. Let people know that we exist.
Yep. DDE3, baby.
All right, DDE3, you got this deep. Let us know. We're looking forward to interacting with you, and we'll talk with all of you very soon in our next episode. And until then, take good care of yourselves, and peace out.
Peace out.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the good old USA. The show was conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Jeremy ACG Penter. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level or higher on Patreon, and we're grateful for your kindness and generosity.